Start video transmission. Here's the link in a moment. Start video transmission. The link is the link flying in your face right now. In a moment. Start video transmission. All right, cool. So we're live. If you want to keep it open, you can read the chat in case anyone gets in there, or should we just ignore the chat?
Yeah, I feel like we should sort of ignore it.
Yeah.
I'll pop it out. But yeah, I'm thinking like having a live chat might detract from
Sure.
things. Yeah, I feel like we should actually kind of mostly ignore it, honestly. Like maybe engage in the very beginning,
Sure.
but then like let's not even look at it.
Cool. I agree. And then let's you can tweet, I will tweet. What's the website where we tweet called? There it is.
Whoa. Twotes.
Twooper duper.
Tunskapunst.
Come hang out. Tweet. That's all. And then I guess no plans to merge should retweet it too, huh? That's what it's.
Yeah, that makes a good hooski ascent of sense.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. We've done all the tweets. We've notified the people. Oh my gosh, there's people already here in the chat.
We're hanging. We got 5 watching. So we could chill in the chat for a few minutes.
Yeah, before we
hit the old record button, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Thing with YouTube Live, unless you select like ultra low latency or something when you stream, latency is pretty rough. So anything we say
it's on like a 10 or 15 second delay or something.
Yep.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah. Yep. So hey, YouTube Livers, we're gonna hang here for a minute, and then I think we're gonna just basically not look at the chat until maybe the end or something, because like you guys feel free to chat it up, but I feel like it kind of sucked to listen to this as a podcast if we're paying attention to the chat the whole time. So yeah, the chat squad. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Society of Chatters.
Chitter chatters.
All right, cool. So chat, hello. You've been acknowledged. Now you're gonna be ignored. We love you. So all right, Caleb, you ready to do the count in? Oh, here, chat. Wait,
do we need to like ask the chat?
Oh yeah.
They, like for like, I don't know, like throw out topics.
Yeah, chat. Do you have any topics?
Like we got a whole slew of topics. But let's throw them out.
Yeah.
You know. How's freelance land going, David?
David's having a great time in freelance land. We do live in a society.
That's really funny.
That's a good topic.
We live in a society.
We should do a topic that's just we live in a society.
Yep.
Just like complaining about people doing things wrong.
Yep.
Topics. Anybody got anything? Anyone sitting on anything?
Oh, Octane. Good call. I would have forgot about that. Yep. Good call. Octane. Yeah, we should definitely talk about Octane. Yeah, I feel like we should. Let's not title it Octane until we like use Octane, because right now I don't know. We probably Livewire 3. Yep, that's always good. Fam package, yeah. Fly fishing. Oh my gosh, you guys.
There's a lot of stuff.
Gotta cover all this stuff. Keep going. We gotta let them keep going. We gotta let that lag catch up. You know,
fly
to
fishing,
us.
How are the fish biting?
We definitely got to cover that. Yeah. Probably first thing, yeah.
How are the fish biting?
I'm not gonna tell you until we record, Daniel.
Okay, yeah.
Would you stop? My gosh.
Octane and Alpine 3. I feel like Alpine 3 rolls up in the Alpine Day conversation.
It does. Well, we can talk Alpine 3.
We can.
All right. Well, let's should we get it going? More interested in Roadrunner than Swool. Fight me. I am too. Yeah. Just because it intrigued me that it was like driven and go. And seems kind of interesting. How to start playing guitar and become a rock star like Caleb. Ha.
Jet skis and how is the new dog?
Jet skis. How's the new dog? The dog's looking great.
Dog's looking great, dude.
Dog
might make an appearance.
Dog got haircut
towards the end.
Cool. We'll dig.
All right, let's do it. Oh, quick question.
We got a quick question. We got to.
What is the podcast about cybersecurity and also the podcast about fly fishing accessory robbery from a museum or something? Okay, the podcast about security is called Darknet Diaries. It's amazing, and you should listen to it. The podcast about the fly fishing robbery is, I'm never going to find it. It might be a Reply All episode. Or a Radio Lab episode, maybe.
Why isn't Caleb standing up? Am I not standing up?
Thought
I was standing up.
You're sitting on a stool, sort of.
Does it look like I'm sitting on a stool?
Well, whenever you move over, we can see that you're like 1 foot is up. Are you standing on 1 foot?
Yeah, I do that all the time. It's like my main stance.
Weird.
Flamingo stance. Now you can see my stance.
Okay.
Yep, I am standing. And then I'll switch feet because that 1 foot, gets a little, you pull your leg up, tree pose, and then your foot is like wedged in there. And I don't know. It's much more comfortable to me than.
Apparently, I'm only coming out of the left channel. This is good. Thank you for telling me.
Look at this.
Open
this
loopback. I'm going to open a loopback, and we're going to make sure that this gets deleted. And this gets pulled into here. Okay.
How often you have moments in your day where you fish, you recorded? Verification, or I don't know if that means how often do I have moments. I don't know what that means.
I wish you had recorded, I think is what he meant.
Why did I see fish in that? That's hilarious.
The man sees fish everywhere.
Fish brain. How often moments in your day where you wish you recorded?
Hell yeah. Hey, can someone verify that I'm now coming out of both channels and my audio is better? I think it should be. Pew, pew.
Yeah, the thing is, we have to get for the podcast. I run both of our audio through, just the like equalize thing on Screen Hero. So
it gets mixed down to mono,
and it's perfect.
Yeah,
it just does it really well. So we have to get it right in the stream. So it's Daniel's audio is low. So you fixed the left channel.
I bumped it up. Yeah,
you bumped it up. Okay, cool. Zooming in and out because of mirror. Yeah, it's gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm in an Airbnb. This is my second last day. So we'll be back to normal soon.
All right.
All right. So is audio good? Let's get confirmation.
Audio's good. Let's do that. Yeah. Everyone's saying good. Now you sound good.
As the verificationer.
His name is Verificationer. That's pretty dope.
Okay.
That person provides a necessary service. All right.
All right, so I think we're going to ignore the chat. Maybe I don't know how we can do this, but I guess we're going to kind of ignore the chat now. So speaker last spoke, and then we're going to ignore you.
Keep speaking to each other. We're not going to talk to you.
Exactly.
Got to get the burp out first. Sorry, chat. Okay, ready for the click?
We got to give him the 15 seconds of latency to
catch up with my request. Last spoke.
Dude, when I stream, when I code stream, everything I ask, I've developed somewhat of the skill of ask something, continue what you're doing, and keep a mental clock of 15 seconds from then, and then see the thing, read the thing, go back to the thing, continue on the thing. It's really annoying. All right, speaking spoke. The speaking has been spoke. All right, so I'm gonna hit record when you count me in. Here we go. Count me in, Deke.
All right. And a 3, and a 2, and a 1, and click.
Hello and welcome to another episode of No Plans to Merge. I'm your host, Caleb Porzio.
And I'm your other host, Daniel Colburn.
And today's episode is brought to you by
the chat.
Oh, and the chat.
In the chat. This one's brought to you.
We are live streaming this one.
Yeah, first time.
First live stream, No Plans to Merge.
Yeah, it's cool. The main reason we're live streaming is not because we necessarily care that much about doing it live, but because we do want to create these YouTube clips of good moments in the show, and the only way that YouTube supports doing that is clipping out of live streams. You can't clip out of other videos.
Yep.
And so we're live streaming.
So we're doing it live.
We figure while we're here, we may as well hang out with 22 viewers.
Yep. And the thing, it's easy for us to live stream, right? Like for other people, other podcasts, it's like an exceptional thing. Like, oh, we're going to live stream it. It would feel different.
Sure.
For us, like it's totally uncut always.
Yeah. We don't
like we haven't cut anything in an episode in like 30 episodes.
Yeah.
So we're basically live streaming without.
I remember the episode where we did have to cut something out and you were so mad. You were like, Daniel.
What did you do?
I don't remember what I did.
Probably something really bad.
I remember you being mad though. Anyway, Caleb, how are you? How's your life?
Dan Cole, I'm really good. I am tired, and I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go home.
Yeah, you've had sort of an unending torrent, like a fire hose torrent of friends and family in your life.
Yes. I've basically been dead to the internet world for like a month.
Yeah.
If anybody listening has not figured that out, it's been like we had one family stay with us for like 7 days, and then back to back the next person stay with us for another 7 days. And then in 2 days we had another like 6 days. And now we just finished the last run, Hannah's parents. And it's just exhausting. I think the most exhausting, I think I've given up on working when that happens. It's like I just work in between, because before I was trying to like fit it in the nights and stuff. Super unrealistic. And when people are here and they're on vacation, like it's just so much, I don't know, like I end up being on vacation too.
Right.
Because like I have to like do their vacation. You know, I can't, you know what I mean?
I do know what you
like
mean.
Every day it's like we did a beach day, we did a boat day, we did whatever. Every day is a new day.
Yeah.
It's like,
you're like the tour guide
Disney
for the
day.
vacation.
We are, yeah. Canoe day, Disney day.
Canoe day.
Yep. Yeah. So
the difficult thing for me about those situations is that like Charlotte and I have like a rhythm where like at certain times we're in like talking to each other mode, and at certain times we're in kind of like sit across the living room from each other and don't say anything and just kind of vibe out mode. And even if you like the people that you're adding into your like dynamic, like they don't like naturally follow your energy patterns that you've established as a household. And so like sometimes you just never get a moment to just sit across the living room from people and not talk to them for an hour. And like that those are restorative times.
That definitely happens. One of the guests in there didn't stay with us. We just spent a lot of time with them. He stayed like in an Airbnb 2 minutes away, and it was totally different because we had our normal routine was sort of uninterrupted, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, when people are staying with you, it's you get up. I get up, I go downstairs and I go, hey, how's it going? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
you got to turn on as soon as you wake up.
And then it's the same thing with bed. It's basically till like 11 o'clock. And then it's like, all right, well, we're going to head in now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is exhausting. Yeah, I'm totally exhausted. I got to be honest with you. I'm excited to get home. You know?
It's going to be nice to go back
fun,
to
but it's
grand old Buffalo for the summer.
So this canoe thing really quick, I had a fun, you know, my whole like rent thing, like rent stuff, don't own stuff.
Is that your thing? You came up with that one?
Yeah, it's my thing. Cause it's like my grandpa was like this. He was big into renting stuff and not owning it. And my brother just mentioned it the other day. He's like, that's your thing. Like, that's your philosophy, right? And I was like, oh, I guess it kind of is. And I just had a good rent, don't own win with the canoe. We got down here and I went on Craigslist and I got a canoe, which we talked about. And I've used it a bunch, caught a bunch of fish from it. And now, like, am I going to bring this whole canoe back home and, like, you know, strap a canoe to the car and ride across the country and then, like, store it in a garage I don't own?
That would be kind of romantic to, like, have a canoe on top of your car while on a road trip. I think that's, like, very, like, it's like American imagery.
Yeah, it is. And it's nice. Like, we have it on our car a lot because it's, like, 85 pounds and nobody wants to take it off. So just around here. And it is fun. Like, you park the car and you got the canoe on. It's very sporty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good look. but it's not great to
It's like a
drive
Norman
with.
Rockwell painting.
That's what I strive for. Yeah. So anyway, so I was like, I wanted to do it, but I actually executed it. I went on Craigslist and I threw it up there, and
Sold it.
sold it for basically the price I bought it for.
Beautiful.
And like they were like, "Can we come in the morning?" I'm like, "Actually, no. Come in the afternoon." And we took one morning and just like canoed our hearts out. Caught a bunch of fish. Caught like one fish. Had a bunch on, and that was that. So sold it, but that was just fun. It was like I paid $50 to have a canoe for like 2 months. You know,
worth
it's the best thing when you could do it. I sold it in one day, and I bought it in one day. So if you had a week-long vacation, you could conceivably do something like this. You know?
Yeah. The only problem is like if you have like a plane ticket and haven't sold the canoe yet.
That's an issue. I was thinking like, what if I can't sell it? Would I dump it? I would take it. I would figure out a way to take it home.
No, you just tie it up at a dock with a sign that says free canoe.
That's so much better.
Yeah. Free canoe. Honestly, and your Venmo handle that says like, if you feel like Venmoing me for this canoe, pay what you want for this canoe.
Dude, that's freaking brilliant. That's great.
Awesome.
The dude who picked it up, I just want to say, it's an 85-pound canoe. And if you've lifted 85 pounds before, picture it being like twice as heavy because it's 85 pounds like spread out over 15 feet. It's not an easy thing to maneuver. This guy, he comes to pick it up, and I'm just kind of like standing there like, all right, you ready? You need a hand? Lift it on his truck. He's like, he's a super nice guy. He's a sailor. He's like, of course. And he's like, no, I'm going to have to be able to lift it myself anyway. So, and he reaches down. I'm like, this guy doesn't know how much this thing weighs. And he just like manhandles this canoe on top of him and starts walking, but like stumbling, you know, like around the parking lot with this freaking heavy canoe. And he eventually wrangled down his car, and he's like, that's way heavier than I thought. And I was like,
I was trying to help you, bro.
Like, I already have the cash. You could have looked up the model. Sorry.
It's a really heavy canoe, bro.
But anyway.
That's funny. They have you ever seen the Amazon Prime show Patriot? Have I talked about this yet? I must have.
No.
Patriot is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen in my entire life. It sounds like it would be a show like a sort of like a Jason Bourne type like operator show or something like that, you know?
Sure. I was just thinking like The Patriot, the movie.
Or The Patriot vibe. With Mel Gibson, right? That's Mel Gibson. It's neither of those things. It is like a dark comedy with like those extreme like psychedelic weird like Coen brothers or like those sorts of vibes, like it's or like Wes Anderson style, like just like weird. The coloring is weird. The pace of the dialogue is like uncomfortable.
You might just have like a still shot for 20 minutes,
and it's like hilarious. It is funnier than anything.
Wow,
like because it's nothing's like it. It's just different than everything.
Interesting.
But one of the things that happens in that show is that there's like a canoe that he can't sell. Or he can't get rid of this canoe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was my nightmare.
It's very funny.
All right.
It's a show about getting something from point A to point B and how that's really simple. You definitely need to watch the show.
I'm in.
Yeah. You got one more night there? You leave in the morning?
Leaving on Friday.
Y'all should watch the first episode of Patriot tonight.
Wow,
and if you don't like the first episode, you will not like the show.
Okay.
If you do like the first episode, you will like the show. It's a very easy show to recommend because you can just tell people, watch a single episode.
That's great.
It's not a thing where you have to stick around and it gets better.
Right.
Like the first episode is the trailer for the show, and it's very accurate. And if you like the type of stupid shit that's in the trailer, or in the first episode, you'll like the whole thing. Amazon Prime, Patriot. Yeah. What else? What do we got?
Well, we got to touch on the fishing really quick just to get over all my like mandatory aquatic nautical topics.
People love fishing.
People love the fishing content. What is there to say? I caught my first saltwater fish yesterday on my own. I caught saltwater fish with Jack. But, you know, it kind of counts. But like he handed me a pole and told me what to do kind of deal. This was like I spent a bunch of time getting skunked, and then I finally got a mackerel.
That means you don't get anything?
Skunked. Yeah. Yep. Which I do quite a lot of, to be honest. But yeah, I got a mackerel. It was awesome.
It's so funny how different hobbies have different jargon.
Yeah. And I think the way to learn the jargon is to just watch YouTube videos of people doing that thing. And I recognize this because I adopted a bunch of the fishing jargon from YouTube because I don't really have a lot of in-person fishing friends. At least the ones I do aren't like fishermen and I don't know, whatever. YouTube is where I picked up a lot of the fishing jargon and I say it and I don't even think about it. And people are like, oh, like, and make some, non-fisherman people. We call them landies. And just kidding. That's part of the jargon. So there's that. And Daniel, fishing jargon. Oh, so I just went mountain biking. We got to talk about mountain biking.
Great.
But a buddy of mine came down to Florida, visit his parents, took me mountain biking. And
a lot of mountains in Florida?
the Everglades Mountains.
Is it like one of those like weird wood courses or whatever?
A lot of stuff like that. Yep. But he had tons of mountain biking jargon, like stuff that I even know from like being into like BMX YouTube and stuff, like Send It, like everybody says Send It. And what else? There's a bunch of stuff. Oh, like casing is like if you go off a jump and like land on the, your like tire lands on the jump instead of like the other side.
Sure.
Like it's casing. I don't know. There's just a ton of stuff like that. Whatever. Have you mountain biked, Dan Cole?
Only like the tiniest bit, like one time. And it was like going downhill is fun and dangerous is what I learned.
Okay. This wasn't actually a ton of downhill.
I mean, I owned a mountain, like I've ridden a mountain bike a lot.
I think you're probably in the same position as me.
Yeah.
But this was like my first mountain biking excursion where like I rented a mountain bike and it was like, full suspension. So like fork suspension and rear suspension. It's all adjustable. Like, so there's little presets and you set it for depending on what you're doing. Huge knobby tires. And what else? Oh, one of those things where you press a button and the seat goes down so that you can like do stuff. And then when you want the seat back, you press it and it like shoots up.
Whoa, you better
which is
make sure you're at the right height when that happens.
No, you can intercept it. It's all right. It doesn't nut you that bad.
Okay, cool.
You just the nut button.
The nut button.
Just get nutted by the seat.
It's the worst news in the entire world.
It's really, the mechanism is basically exactly like an office chair. You press the button.
Okay. Like, so it comes up kind of slow.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But anyway, dude, this place in Florida, it's totally public and it's massive. Absolutely massive. It's like a ski resort, but for mountain bikes. And they'll have like skate parks for mountain bikes. They'll have like pump tracks and wooden tracks and just trails. And it was way more fun than I thought mountain biking would be. I highly recommend it.
Hell yeah. I've heard that Asheville has some of the best mountain biking in the country.
It's gotta.
But I've never done it here.
Half the people there have to be in a mountain bike.
It's a big thing here. The number of mountain bike stores that are here alone indicates that there's a lot of mountain biking going on. I know a bunch of people who've actually come here to mountain bike. So yeah, Sweet. I think it's mountain bike country.
The stuff I was really into that I imagine maybe would be the same for you. I don't know. The trails are fun, but like the jumps are really fun.
Yeah,
like the ski park area where you just kind of like.
Did you BMX before?
Yeah.
So you have like you have a bunny hop.
I have a bunny hop.
See, I've never bunny hopped a bike.
Gotcha.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it takes.
Well, that's not true. I've bunny hopped a mountain bike a little bit.
Really? That's tough. It's a lot harder than bunny hopping a BMX.
I never had a BMX bike, so I don't.
Or sorry, then bunny hop. Right. The mountain bike, you have to like use the leverage. You have to literally, because you can't just like jump it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the same with the BMX bike, but it's just more extreme. You have to like really lean back and like pull it up and then like stand up and like push forward, I don't know. But dude, so much fun.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I should try mountain biking sometime.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
I was in a cow field this weekend that I wasn't supposed to be in.
Oh yeah.
And then we like heard a motorcycle like kind of coming through the thicket towards us.
Okay.
Like a dirt bike or something.
Yeah.
And like it was starting to get dark, and we were like we were on like some redneck dude's land. We're like, I
Mm-hmm.
really don't want to get shot right now. Like,
Yep.
so we like hightailed it, and then we ended up like walking along the highway for like 4 miles, but it was really fun. It's a good time.
Was your thumb out?
No, just walking because we had to get back to our car. We were like, let's cut through this cow field,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were like, we might get shot for doing this. So
Were
then
you near cows?
yeah,
Do you mess with any cows?
we didn't mess with them. We said what's up.
Like you got like close to them?
I mean, not close, but like 50 yards. They were like, it's a big field.
Word.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
we stepped in their poop.
Yeah, so that was my next question.
Yep,
You got pied.
got pied.
I was so I'm reading this Bill Gates book, you know, the How to Avoid a Climate Disaster.
I don't know the book, but that is one of the things he's into.
Just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta read it.
Okay,
Highly recommend it.
cool.
It's
What
basically
does he
like
recommend?
the best breakdown. What does he recommend?
Does he recommend
You'll have to read the book.
nationalizing energy companies? Because that's what you have to do.
Oh, no,
Yeah, he wouldn't. He's like not big on the government controlling companies. He's kind of a company guy.
I mean, it's a global thing. Like
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
have to be. The U.S. is a small part of the problem,
For sure.
especially
But
like
U.S. owned companies are a huge part of the problem.
I don't know.
They
I mean,
just do stuff other places.
I don't even think that's true.
Okay.
Like China is
Huge.
huge.
Yeah. But I mean, per
This
capita.
problem. India. I don't know, man. I mean, it's like you would be surprised where all the emissions come from.
Well, I know that
Cement
like
is like
cruise ships.
one of the biggest.
Cruise ships put out more like a single. I read this stat somewhere that a single like long cruise on a cruise ship puts out more emissions than all of the cars in the European Union in a year.
I heard some.
I've heard something
some
like that. I don't know if
facts
that's
like
true.
that.
It sounds.
But like cars aren't that big of a like.
Yeah.
It's just really illuminating to
It's
find
definitely
out
not
like
cars. Yeah, no, it's like yes, things like cement, like
creating
building.
cement. So there's like building materials,
Mm-hmm.
cement and steel, and cement. Literally, when you create cement, you heat limestone
Mm-hmm.
to get cement. Heat limestone to get like what is it
Concrete.
like? No, concrete's like cement with gravel and stuff like
Or
that.
sorry, yeah,
Um,
cement.
you get calcium something,
Mm-hmm.
and so the byproducts of heating the limestone is like one part calcium whatever and the other part carbon dioxide. So it's literally like not even it's not even just the greenhouse gases to like move it all, mix it all, heat it all, you know. It's literally like you can't avoid emitting carbon dioxide, a ton of carbon dioxide
Mm-hmm.
when you're creating cement.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you did it all with clean energy,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to figure out a way to like so people are innovating like trying to like put that carbon dioxide like,
Hempcrete.
trap it back in the cement or like, you know, use carbon capture to capture the emissions. But dude, it is such a difficult problem. And so now I'm on the chapter with agriculture,
Mhm.
which accounts for like I don't remember the percentage, but it's a pretty high percentage.
Mhm.
And the cows, of course,
Mhm.
are a big part of that. Simply the methane that they burp actually much more than fart, but the methane that, you know, is produced, the fermentation inside of them and their poop then decomposes and emits more greenhouse gases.
Mhm.
And per calorie, you know, to get 1 calorie of beef, you have to have like, what is it? You know what I mean? Like 1 calorie of grain
Mhm.
equals like an eighth of a calorie of beef or something. It might be even a even worse multiple. It's like the most inefficient food source.
Right.
But so there's like all of those things that go into it, of course. But anyway, that's what made me think of cow pies
Cows.
and
Yeah.
their
And their pollution.
so there's like research, like can we like genetically engineer like cows to like not poop like as much like bad stuff and not like decompose whatever. Anyway. So
Dope.
dude, you should seriously check it out though.
I
It's
will.
like it's totally opening my mind.
I will.
Blowing my mind.
I will do that. Yeah. I am into it, dude. The like China building in the last 20 years stuff is crazy.
Yeah, it's like China in the last like 30 years has what, like emitted more more greenhouse gases than all of like the US over the
But they
entire century, or
also
like the US and India combined over some
but they
absurd.
also switched to clean energy in many, many places. Like that's the thing. Their emissions right now come from development, right? Like they are
Yep.
building cities
Right.
at an
Yep.
insane rate. But if you look at their old cities, in the 90s, you used to not be able to see at all in Beijing.
Right.
And
Yep.
now Beijing has like a clear skyline, right?
Yep.
Like they ended pollution because as a as an authoritarian government, they can just end pollution, right? Like they can just say like, oh, we are no longer going to use these like dirty coal burning fuel factories. Like we're just gonna like implement nuclear power across the country like universally.
Are they doing that?
Yeah, like that's why there's like less smog.
Interesting. At least my impression is that China is like a huge offender of
No, they definitely
um,
are.
burning fossil fuels to generate electricity.
Right, they definitely are. But oh,
But they're
for
like,
electricity, I don't
yeah,
know what they're like, but I know that like one of the huge like Xi Jinping things has
yeah,
been like get rid of this smog,
nice.
right? And so
Yeah,
they
it
have
is.
like all kinds of shit going towards that end of like getting
Right.
rid of smog.
The your point on the developing, like China developed later than the US,
And they developed at
and
an insane rate.
insane, absolutely insane. And they're still going. But like the US, our cement use has sort of not plateaued, but like seriously calmed down. Where like India is just ramping up,
Yeah.
and sub-Saharan Africa, like all these developing countries, like, and we want them to develop. Like you want the world to get richer and more and better off and industrialized and whatnot. Maybe you do. At least that's what they want. And so it's whatever. But so they're like just ramping up. Like the problem's just going to get worse and worse and worse for those countries with steel and cement and other materials and whatnot. And yeah, anything. And like the best way to get electricity, fossil fuels, the best way to get all this stuff. It's just, so it's going to be that way unless we can innovate basically and like
Well, the other
find
thing with
cheaper ways.
China that like my interest is always in like where like what consumer or not consumer but like what is like the high end or the high level purchase that causes this carbon emission, right?
Okay.
Like who spent $1 to put this carbon into the atmosphere? And
Sure.
that is like it's almost always like America and the US and like or America and Europe and these like first world countries where it's like, oh yeah, like the reason China emits a ton of carbon is because we basically outsource all of our carbon emissions to China by having everything we manufacture be manufactured in China, right? Like but it's like ultimately those are things that are being purchased largely here in the US and in Europe, right? And so if we were to address this from a perspective of like we need to like I think if you just punish companies for selling a good that caused carbon emission, no matter where in the world that carbon emission happened, right? Then the companies will go lean on their suppliers, right? And then that'll like force China to create less carbon, like because I think much of the carbon emission that's happening in China is like as a result of manufacturing, right? As a result of like the usage of like these sort of huge factories to like create plastics or create steel or do all this crazy shit. So I mean, to me, like my thinking is always like as long as you can like hold the high end of the supply chain accountable for all of the sins of the lower sides of the supply chain, then the high end of the supply chain will sort it out. Like I feel the same way about like whatever, like sweatshop slavery stuff, right? Like as long
Sure.
as
Right.
I can put Nike's CEO in prison if I discover that they're a slave made a shoe,
Yeah.
then Nike will make sure that a slave didn't make a shoe, right? But as long
Yeah.
as Nike's CEO or Nike shareholders are completely like unaffected by like whether or not there's slavery going on to make their shoes, then they're never going to fix that problem because they're not
sure.
incentivized to do that, right?
Yep.
And I just think, like, generally speaking, like, you have to take the consequences for these things and take them off of the people low in the supply chain and put them onto the people high in the supply chain.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I don't know enough about the supply chain and its like global impact and all this to know if like that's the solution. It's part of the solution for sure, but it's a difficult thing because even if we just like forget about anything we outsource, if we just put these restrictions on the US itself, like it would have serious impacts because of the quote unquote green premium, like how much extra it costs to have the zero emission version of everything that we do.
It's the same thing with like the minimum wage argument, right? So the main argument with the minimum wage is like if you increase the minimum wage, but other countries don't increase their minimum wage, then you're just incentivizing countries to outsource jobs, right? Right? Or incentivizing companies to outsource jobs because it now becomes more expensive to do your labor in the country and less expensive to do out of the country. And so this is the thing, like all of these free trade agreements, like NAFTA, like I have big problems with all these free trade agreements, right? Because free trade agreements essentially limit the amount that it costs for companies to outsource jobs to certain areas, right? So NAFTA, it's like it makes it cheaper for the U.S. to outsource jobs to like Mexico or something, right? Like that's why like Fender guitars are now made in Mexico and a lot of American cars are now made in Mexico, right? So my thing is like increase jobs, make free trade agreements everywhere, but you simply require the minimum wage to be met no matter where you put your job, right? You can make your guitars in Mexico, but you have to pay those people whatever the minimum wage here multiplied by the cost of living differential and all of that stuff, right? Like you simply are not legally allowed to export a job to Mexico and pay them $1 an hour to build a guitar, right?
Right. I mean, I don't like it sounds great, but I have to imagine that
it's practically difficult to enforce, right?
Well, even if you could enforce it, like to just basically charge to make it so expensive, where one, there wouldn't be an incentive for the U.S. to outsource stuff, and
right,
like
that's good.
Well, so like China basically is like a miracle of like it's a modern miracle of like an entire country
it's
lifted
not really
themselves
a miracle.
From
like if you throw a lot of human misery at a hard problem, you solve it. Like that's
no,
how
I
they
mean,
built
like,
the pyramids. That's how America
China
built its
lifted
economy.
themselves out of poverty by industrializing,
and by killing by literally throwing their citizens on the gears of industrialization. You know, by making their people work as slaves for years and years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. Like slavery is really good at making economies big and valuable, right? Like that's how America worked. That's how America became such a superstar economy.
I don't know. I
slavery at the problem.
I can't engage because I don't know enough about it, so I can't even say that they did that. I can just say that that I should learn more about it to understand.
I'm just talking about like, you know, like you've got many a factory in China with suicide nets, right? To stop people from jumping to their deaths.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a great situation.
Yeah.
But like the world getting richer and industrializing, like would you say that is a good thing? Like developing countries don't have access to modern medicine, life expectancy is super low, like to all this stuff that they don't have access to reliable electricity and all this stuff because they're not rich enough.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, it depends, right? If that happens at the expense of all of humanity dying in the next 100 years, I would say that's a bad thing, right? Like if the only course for industrialization of the rest of the world is...
Right, but take that out of it. Let's say we figure out, you know, you're saying climate impact wise.
Right.
So let's take that out.
But I mean like not just like climate change impact stuff, but like general like environmental things
for sure.
Like, cause people to get sick from doing their jobs and die of, you know,
well,
whatever.
Let's say like we all like innovate well enough so that it makes like so little sense to like generate electricity with fossil fuels when you just can, you know, grab your little fusion reactor, you know, for $5 that produces electricity for a city.
So generally I think that's good. I think that the first step of that, though, or the most important step of that is that, like, it has to, like, the resources of nations have to be democratized, right? Like, because there's so many, like, incredibly rich third world countries right now, that are just being, like, robbed. And,
Sure.
And so, like, I think that step one is just, like, we have to kind of, like, look at, like, where the power dynamics are and, like, why it is that these larger countries are able to basically just extract the resources of these smaller countries without giving, And so I think because this sort of imperialistic approach works so well with natural resources, when the next resource comes along, which is labor, right, we're going to do exactly the same thing, right? And I think that that's what happens is, like, we approach these countries and we say, like, hey, wouldn't you like to be developed? All you need to do is, like, let us pay you $1 an hour to, like, manufacture sweaters in your company or in your country. And then eventually over time, like, you'll, like, earn your way out of slavery and become, like, a medium tier country in the global economy or something, right?
Or a top tier in the case of China.
Or a top tier in the case of China. But, like, I don't know.
So how else? What's the path to riches? What's the path to being a first world country? Otherwise, like.
So I don't know that in capitalism there is a path. I actually don't believe that in capitalism there is a path to a relatively flat and balanced wealth, right? I think capitalism necessitates poor countries. There have to be poor countries for capitalism to continue. Like, so ultimately, like, if too many countries get rich, some countries will have to become poor. Because capitalism has a bunch of shit that it needs to shovel, and it needs somewhere to shovel it, and it needs people to do the worst work, right? And maybe automation can solve that, right? Like, that's kind of the hope, is that, like, ultimately automation solves the worst working problems. But as automation solves that, you end up with people who die of starvation because they're not working, right? And so that's, like, another problem that needs to be solved. And since the supply chains don't care about who those people are, right? Like, if all of a sudden, like, Apple is able to, like, well, like, this M1 chip is a great example, right? Like, say Apple, like, does this innovation, creates this M1 chip, and no longer needs all these Intel chips. So Intel shuts down a factory in Bangladesh somewhere, right? Because now they don't need these chips anymore. And a whole village starves, right? Because that was their entire economy, was this chip that manufactured, or was this chip factory. Apple is, like, completely, like, their hands are clean. All they did was just, like, invent a new chip. Right. But someone has to take all the risk, right? And ultimately it becomes, like, the most vulnerable people take most of the risk because everyone else is insulated.
Sure. So, another story is that tiny village in Bangladesh, life expectancy is super low. They don't have good, sewage. They don't have reliable access to electricity or education.
Yes. All true.
So we'll consider them suffering people.
Sure.
And then, then they become industrialized with, this manufacturing plant for Intel chips. And now they have skills, they have electricity, they have, sewage, they have all this stuff, like sanitation and whatever. And then the factory shuts down. I guess it's a question of, like, are they better off or worse off? Like, aren't they better off? Aren't they better off having, like, built up an economy already? Like, there's, like, if they...
but they haven't built up an economy, right? Because...
Well, let's assume that they have.
The entire economy...
Wouldn't they but everything that built up around that.
Yeah, but those things aren't self-sustainable. Like, go look in West Virginia and Kentucky at these old coal company towns, right? The coal company's gone. Everything that built up around that. Yeah.
But, like, Buffalo's a great example of, like, a Rust Belt town, Rust Belt city that was, like, booming, top tier, and then all the steel factories shut down. And so now, like, on my drive into the city, it's just like rusty place after rusty place on this one strip of all of these old, my grandpa used to work in a factory. Like, it was all these people had factory jobs and unions with pensions, and none of that exists anymore. And so there was definitely a period of sort of like a depression-ish, but we've replaced those jobs with other jobs.
Right. But I mean, and the same thing,
non-industrial jobs.
Like Baltimore has like a very similar story, right? But the problem is that like the cycle that causes that is like a huge cycle of like white flight, and then like a reemergence of like wealthy people into the place, which then displaces all of the poor people, right? So
it's interesting. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That has not happened in Buffalo. I'm not saying that white flight hasn't happened in Buffalo, but there's no, like, wealthy people are not flocking to Buffalo,
Maybe you're earlier on the curve, Sure. But like traditionally that's what tends to happen, right? Is like the place gets really bad. The people who live there work really hard to make it better. And as soon as they do, people come in and steal it from them, right? It would almost be like the Intel factory leaves town. A bunch of these dedicated people say, we're not going to let this town die. We're going to keep it alive, right? We're going to start a new industry. We're going to like start selling, something else that we can make chips for, right? And so like they start like a small business. It's nowhere near the income that they used to have, but they're able to keep everyone alive. They're able to keep food coming in, all this stuff. And then as soon as it comes along, like China just kind of like shows up on the doorstep and is like, great, we'll have this, like, thanks for keeping this factory running. Like, we'll take over.
Right. How do they take over?
Just normally are you talking about in China? If it was
in
China?
No.
Well, actually, it's actually the
in our
exact
thought
same
experiment
way.
with the Intel chips.
No, actually, you know what? The way that China takes over is exactly the same way that it happens in America. China offers loans to countries all the time. China's like a huge lender. And they lend for these big development projects to countries at these rates that they'll never be able to afford. So they did this, for example, with, I forget where it was, India or Turkey or something. There was like this massive port that they needed to like develop like into like a shipping hub, right? Okay. And it was, $100 billion or something, right? Just some amount of money that it couldn't have been India because that's too big of an economy, but it was a smaller country, right? And they're like, here, take the money. So then they build this port. They now owe China a huge percentage of their GDP. Okay. And China collects, right? Like China doesn't not collect. And so there's just like basically this like weird sharecropping situation going on where a lot of smaller countries are just paying out to China, right? The exact same thing happens in like American cities, right? Where it's like people come in and like you're desperate, you're trying to eat, like the city has nothing. I'm going to offer you like this, either I'm just going to directly offer you this amount of money for your house, or I'm just going to buy up all the houses around you until you can no longer afford the property taxes, and sort of force you into this situation where like you're forced to take the money because that's your only option. Right? Which is the position China puts these smaller countries in all the time.
So back to the Intel experiment. We have the factory that has been shut down. An entire, city a village has been turned into a city. And the main, source of income. Well, the thing that I would say in my story is that because of that original source of manufacturing income, there's been other things that have cropped up around it. Sure. Not to say that the beating heart isn't the beating heart. So like Buffalo, lots of other industries and things have cropped up around, steel. Now steel's gone, doesn't mean it's not devastating, but there's a lot built up already. So let's say that it's a similar picture. So now it's gone. So now we have the hardworking, what's the country?
Bangladesh.
The bootstrapping Bangladesh villagers that figure it out and get the country or the village back up to some level of something by making like Geico insurance call centers, whatever. But we do that. And now what's the story? Like, so they're back up now. How does the big guy come in and be bad again?
Well, I'm just saying that
How does
often.
Intel
Sure.
come back and steal?
So I guess what I'm saying is like often in those situations, like you end up in a situation where like you have a whole economy that isn't actually being sustained by Geico insurance call centers, right? So you have an economy that's getting worse and worse and worse every year as they need more and more money to keep up the infrastructure, right?
Okay.
So like a really good example is like if you look at like a bunch of the former USSR countries that aren't like the big ones. So
Yep.
like, you know, some of the big ones are doing great, but like if you look at like Belarus or something, right? Like these are countries where there were like factories and stuff during the Soviet Union, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
the Soviet Union ended, all of that stuff went away. But there were these cities that had been built up to like for people to live in, to work in this factory that created tanks for the Soviet Union, or
Mm-hmm.
to work in this mine that generated iron that was used to, you know, make these tanks. So
Yep.
as you see, there's still people living there because they're there,
Yep.
but there's no infrastructure development since the fall of the Soviet Union,
Yep.
right? So the roads haven't been worked on since the Soviet Union fell.
Yep.
The buildings are not being maintained, so buildings are just falling down left and right, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, someone opened up a supermarket and like is making some money selling apples, and someone opened, you know, like yes,
Yeah.
there are these small businesses, but by and large, like I saw a guy who there's this really good YouTube channel I found of this guy who just travels to random countries,
Cool.
and it wasn't Belarus, but it was one of those smaller Eastern Bloc countries.
Okay.
And he's standing there, and as he's walking through, it's just people selling their clothes in the park. Like that's the economy. It's like people selling their shit in the park, and it's all shit that they bought like during the Soviet Union, right? It's like old stuff, like people selling just like, oh, here's this old sweater that I've had for 20 years, because there's nothing, there's no natural resources,
Yeah.
there's no factories, there's no investment, foreign investment, right? And without that, like you can't have an economy. So you have this weird situation where you have this like the shadow of a world superpower of like
Yeah.
giant apartment buildings, these huge hotels, this like old resorts from, because this was like a vacation city
Yeah.
during the USSR, right? So there's these
Right.
old resorts and stuff that like old like Communist Party members used to bring their rich families to fucking party.
Yeah.
And now it's just a desolate wasteland of like broken concrete, because you can start a bunch of small businesses, but like that can't keep a city going. You need major employers.
So then what's the story? What's the story for Belarus? Is it first question is, are they worse off
Now,
than when the USSR came in?
well, he asked a bunch of people in this thing, and universally all the old people said yes.
They're worse off in the sense that, like, yeah, it was better when the rich dudes were coming and partying, or I mean, like, are they worse off that if like this never happened at all? You know what I mean?
Sure. But what I'm saying is there wouldn't be anyone there if this had never happened.
There wouldn't be anybody there. Okay.
Right? Like,
So
this
they're
was
all there
just
because
tundra or whatever.
because industry popped up.
Yeah.
A demand was created from somebody from the outside, and then it was filled, and then this thing built up. Then the rug got pulled out. Whoosh. Now it's down, and now the question is, there's two paths. The path, of course, to rebuilding, whatever that looks like, which I'm interested in the forks on that one, and then there's the path to everybody leaving or dying and leaving.
Yeah, well, the problem is they can't leave because it's a small country, right? There's nowhere else to go. No one wants them to immigrate there.
Okay, so they are stuck.
Yeah.
And so their path out of it is to
They're just getting poorer.
build an economy out of thin air.
Yeah, every generation they get poorer.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're assuming they don't have any natural resources. And so the only thing that they have is their. So what do you mean by labor?
I mean, that's all that you have if you don't have resources is your own labor. That's the only thing.
Right. And how can you turn labor? How can you create an economy out of labor? Is that that's possible?
So the only
right?
option is the only way for a place like that to create an economy out of labor is to underbid everyone else, right? You just need to be cheaper than everyone else.
Who needs the labor?
American companies.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? Like,
okay. So let's say
there's no
let's take the American
there,
companies out of this.
right?
Take America out of this. We're now on an island in Belarus. They're an island. Nobody is there to want labor, right? So the economy is kaput. You gotta start build something up, drew people there, now it's over. It's all over.
Yeah, so then
these people
this is what Cuba is, right? Like Cuba is that. It's a self-contained country that just like built its own economy.
There you go.
Right?
They're doing great.
Yeah, they're doing great. They got a lot of help early on from the Soviets, but like that's what their economy is, right? It's just a self-contained economy. And they're not doing great. Like, you know,
I know.
Their people are still poor.
So can Belarus have their own self-sustaining economy?
Probably not. Or probably not. Probably not if the goal is to have a standard of living somewhat similar to, like, let's say like a poorer European country, right? Like a Poland or something like that. Right? Like Poland is like not a rich country, but like people aren't just like dying in the streets
selling their clothes in the park.
Right, yeah, exactly. So if Belarus wanted to be something like Poland, they would need to like join the European Union and like get involved in international trade, and that would allow that people from Belarus to migrate to other European countries to work and stuff like that, you know?
I guess what I'm saying is, in the story of Belarus suffering in perpetuity, having been left with nothing, is it better for them to do that, or is it better for the US to hire them to do work, to create things for a richer country, you know?
Is it? Well, yeah. I mean, obviously it is better for any individual person for that to happen, right?
Yeah.
I just think that it's important to like look at like the long arc of history and the fact that these people are only poor because the US made them poor, right?
Interesting. So these people, they're poor. Weren't they poor before the US was involved?
But they weren't like they were just like normal agrarian people.
Right. I think that's maybe a difference. That's what we have to figure out. Is it better to be a normal
but that's the thing,
agrarian person?
There are almost no
villager.
Places. No, but there are almost no places in the world like that now, right? All places in the world have now been touched by capitalism. Yes. Everyone is now dependent on the system, right? The US and...
But why are they dependent on the system?
Because we gave them whatever, right?
What they wanted. You don't want to be
dude, a
village farmer in a rice paddy. You don't get to.
That's just so not true, though. Like, if you look at the history of colonialism, the like European and American stories are always like, yeah, we just showed up and they like loved our buttons and gold.
I get it.
And, you know. It's
no,
like, no, we showed up and we
that.
killed and raped them, and then we like put them into slave camps.
100%.
Yeah.
Not cool. Super not cool. Let's say that we never colonized the US. UK's over there doing great because Steve Jobs was born in the UK.
Sure.
And so they're doing great over there. But we know about the New World now. We travel there. They're like, oh man, these shiny weapons you have.
Yeah.
They're not getting shot by them.
Sure.
They're just so like, oh my gosh, like you can just cure disease like that, and you can specialize. Like, this is fantastic. I hate being the jack of all trades and a master of none. I'm picking berries in the field in the morning, and I'm, making a fire for the longhouse at night. Right. And they're envious of the new.
I'm not saying like, I'm not talking about like just like pure feudalism or like this like weird like I live in a hut and eat berries. Like, there are whole societies and cities that have been built in these societies that aren't like part of the global capitalist system, right? But like inevitably we go in there and make those places dependent on the global capitalist system.
Right.
So like Baghdad is a great example, right? Like that, like Iraq or Iran is an even better example. Iran was like a thriving, wealthy, extremely liberal country for like up until the US got involved in the 70s, right? Like
No, I don't know.
Iran was the shit. It was like
Iran was where I was at.
it was a very cool,
Go
very
vacation in
liberal,
Iran.
very like huge civil liberties, like a
Okay.
super chill, vibey country, right? Until
Okay.
the US got involved, right?
Okay, so then the US comes in and then what did we do? We hired them to make our
We shut
like
down the Iranian
clothes and stuff.
Revolution.
Oh, well, what's that?
There was a socialist revolution during a time when the US was really into having coups whenever there were socialists. And so we shut it down and we installed a government that turned out to be a government that didn't do good things, like always when we do a coup. And then we made those people our enemy, like we've done in many, 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 many countries. Like almost all of South America, almost all of Africa, almost all of the Middle East are countries that we've gone in and like installed dictators, and then they've turned out to be dictators. You know.
This is interesting. So I would like to know more about these US installed dictators.
Uh-huh.
So Decol, so this capitalism thing.
Mm-hmm.
So your whole thing that like it's not good. It's not good because rich people are rich and they make poor people poor and they keep them poor.
Is it because rich people are
they
rich?
cause human so capitalism?
No, it's because people steal from other people.
Okay.
And people die because of it. That's why it's bad.
Okay. So it causes suffering. People steal from other people.
Uh-huh.
The alternative
so I wouldn't even say capitalism is bad. I would say capitalists are bad people. Right? Gotcha. Like the people who are at the top end, the Bill Gateses of the world, which is why it's ironic that he's writing this fucking book. Right?
Funny, dude. This
he is the cause
because I'm on the Bill Gates.
It's like Bill Gates is on a massive conscience alleviation mission for the past 15 years. But like Bill Gates is a bad person. That's an important thing to know. Like the world would be better.
This is tough, dude.
But the world would be better if Bill Gates' wealth had never been consolidated in Bill Gates.
Gotcha. Okay. So the suffering that he's reducing with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation
is far, far less than the suffering he caused to get that money.
Really?
Yeah. Drastically.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
I mean I could get with it. I can't say because I'm just throwing darts at a dartboard. I don't know. I have no way of measuring that, but it's that's an interesting theory. So okay, so let's say that Bill Gates doesn't get rich. Mm-hmm. His first software idea gets ripped off right away because he made Windows open source.
Sure.
Which, dude,
so great.
So he gets ripped and he's a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for the sake of this, we have to take out the possibility that somebody else builds Microsoft and does it instead of him, who's more greedy than him.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair play, although could very well have been the case. Okay. So all of this money, Microsoft never gets created. I mean, I guess the question is like all of what Microsoft did with PCs and I don't know, just like Microsoft as a company, did they reduce suffering by like advancing technology and innovating and, you know, stuff like that? Like what's the level of suffering that was reduced by innovating and pushing technology forward, which takes resources, which takes consolidated resources to do.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Yes.
So right. So that like that has to account for something.
What do you mean?
I guess I'm playing devil's advocate on your, if Bill Gates never got rich,
mm-hmm.
we would be better off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Trying to think of the ways where we would be better off.
Right. So
we wouldn't be better off.
Let's take it out of the realm of Microsoft because it's kind of hard to identify like the
value
of
why
Windows.
Did they pick such
right?
a garbage.
But
but for real, like I mean, okay, but yeah.
But let's talk about like the value. Let's say like the value of penicillin or something, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Say it's like penicillin, right? And
the only thing good that Microsoft ever did was pinball.
Right. Or like here's a really good example is like the current AIDS drugs that exist, right? Like there are companies that have created drugs that essentially make AIDS like a non-issue if you have them, right? Or if you have HIV, like you take these things, you're all good. And if you're having sex with someone who has HIV, like you take these things, you're all good, right? Yeah. It makes the spread of AIDS like massively, like way less of an issue.
Got it.
And so, right? And so these people are currently charging a ass load of money for these drugs.
Yeah.
Right? And they're becoming incredibly rich doing it, right?
Sure.
So
absolutely.
we can ask the question, are these people, does the net existence of these drugs at astronomical prices that leave many, 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 many people out to die of AIDS, but also save some lives if they have the money from dying of AIDS, does this like make the world a better place? You know? And I would say yes, it will, as soon as we kill them and take their drugs and give them to people for free.
So the alternative in this thought experiment is the AIDS drug never existed and everybody who has AIDS is just suffering and dying.
Yes.
And isn't that worse than much fewer people suffering?
Arguably, but you have to ask the question of like how much additional suffering is caused by the AIDS drug production, right? So
meaning, what do you mean?
Meaning the exact same thing as like the Intel example, right? Like of
right, and that's a tough thing to like. We haven't quite pinned that down in this conversation because we don't know. Like we can't just like assign like it's just a bunch of what ifs. Sure. And what about how come like socialism and communism hasn't done so hot in history? And what about like the consolidation of power that comes with those types of, with those types of setups, and how like in history, haven't we found that to like almost always be a bad thing because of like corrupt people?
So yeah, we've generally found authoritarianism to be a bad thing.
So how do you do this? How do you fix the world, Daniel?
I don't know how you fix the world. I think you start by identifying the most harmful problems in the world, right?
So what's the alternative? Right, what's the alternative?
Well, first we have to universally sit down and agree that there is a problem and that we want to work on fixing it. Right?
So we need a collective conscience that is more moral than
like Caleb. The point is that like fixing the problem is not even like on the radar of anyone who wants to fucking fix it, because they all benefit from the problem, right?
I know. I'm just looking for. I'm with it, and you're totally good to call out these things, and I'm consider this extremely educational and enlightening, Daniel. So I thank you for that. But you can just like criticize, but where's the path to? You haven't like given me where's the light at the end of the tunnel? How do we fix this situation?
I think eventually the criticism needs to turn into action, and I think you just have to start taking things away from those people. At first with like economic pressure, right? But if they don't give it to you economically, you just do it violently.
So you do it violently. And what are we doing here?
So for example, let's just make it Exxon, right? Like Exxon's a great example, right?
Great.
Huge contributor to climate change, basically poses an existential threat to the human race, right?
For sure.
If they keep doing if they and all the companies like them and all the other companies that are knowingly creating massive amounts of carbon, right? Keep doing the things that they're doing, we will all die, right?
Yeah.
So we need to not die. They are never going to stop doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they have known that they were killing all of us for a long time. They suppressed science.
Sure.
You're right.
They've been bad boys.
And they are continuing to this day to lobby against the science and make sure that the science doesn't get out and nobody knows that they're killing us all.
Bad boys.
So there is no amount of asking nicely that will make them stop being bad boys.
Yeah. So we go to the Exxon headquarters, we fill it with laughing gas.
No.
And they all laugh themselves to death.
No. The best, most nonviolent way of solving this problem is that we elect legislators who nationalize the company and make it a wholly owned subsidiary of the government, and then use all of the money that the company has and all of the assets the company has to develop green energy to replace the antisocial thing that they are creating with a social thing that they could be creating.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good, and I dig it. I totally dig it. When I think about that, I guess like having seen American politics, I'm so disheartened that like we can really do anything good that won't take like forever and ever and will probably maybe never happen.
That's a really good point, and that's why it's so depressing to be in America.
Super depressing. So, well, no, it's not depressing if you just turn your eyes to.
Yeah, if you just say whatever, we're all going to die in 100 years. Better have fun.
No, Daniel. This is where you put your faith in the Gates. This is where you put your faith in the big capital in like new conscious capitalism. I'm gonna say all these things are gonna trigger the shit out of you, but continue with
twitching indoors.
I know, but it's like, well, how are we gonna fix this if we can't fix it with political or economic pressure or whatever? Like, well, we can incentivize the right thing by innovating and educating.
Well, no, but the thing is that like eventually the political system will crumble, right? Like the closer and more immediate the existential threat to people's lives gets, the more likely things like revolutions and stuff are, right? Like,
yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like, you know, I got the rose-colored stained glass window for Bill Gates at the moment. So let me ride this wave. I mean,
listen, he talks well and he's a smart guy and he's a nerd, which is so fun.
Okay. He's basically dedicated all the wealth that he's amassed to solving the world's big problems, right? And you're saying, well, how did he amass that wealth? Would have been great if he never did. But here we're in this predicament. And if every person who amassed all that wealth put their energy into innovations that it's going to raise all boats, I'm talking so optimistically that I can feel you. But for real, like here's a guy who's like, all right, you know what? I'm really smart. I'm really rich. I know a lot of really smart and really rich people, and I can give the smart people who aren't rich a bunch of money so they can be rich too. And we can basically funnel all this energy to the things that matter, like fixing climate change, educating people and innovating and making it so that you're incentivized to use the more efficient energy solutions. You know what I mean? Like, so like if fossil fuels were less efficient, we'd still have a uphill battle for sure. But there would at least be, the incentives would be aligned and it wouldn't be a battle against politics. And you know what I mean?
So so paint for me the picture then. You're Bill Gates. You've got Bill Gates money.
Yeah.
How do you make Exxon stop doing bad things with that money?
Oh, so you write a book, you write an open letter, you educate people, which he's doing. You get on all these things and you start speaking and you're a person, whatever. Okay, so you do that, you're educating, and you invest in innovation so that there's alternatives to Exxon that are cheaper and better.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
That would be great.
So what if that doesn't happen fast enough and we all die anyway?
If that doesn't happen fast enough, we're probably going to die for sure.
Sure. So we've got 10 years.
We have more than 10 years, but okay.
But I mean, like we need to be decreasing and we're increasing, right?
For sure. We're increasing freight train.
So this needs to be like a very rapid turnaround, right? The market has known about this problem for a really long time.
For sure.
All right. And green energy companies have been subsidized by the government for a really long time. Subsidized to an extent way higher than Bill Gates is subsidizing them. Right? Like there's already massive investment in these green energy companies from the US government.
Yep.
Right? And still the market does not solve this problem.
Yep. So what's the alternative again?
The market is not going to solve this problem.
So the solution to the problem is
the only thing that is bigger than the market is the government. That's the problem. And so it has to end with the government shutting down the market.
Globally.
Well, we only have one government for our country, so it would have to first start with American companies.
Yeah.
Luckily, America's the top of the supply chain, right? Yep. And so things that happen in the U.S. have trickle-down effects to other countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the EU is probably going to do it before we do it. I think China's going to do it before we do it. Japan's going to do it before we do it.
You think so?
Because we're morons.
Yeah, we are morons.
We're literally the only country where half the people don't believe that this is happening.
I know. We're
pretty, absolute morons.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have very little faith in everybody getting on board.
But it's like we're the dumbasses at the front of the bus driving the bus into the wall.
I feel the same.
And literally the entire world's sitting there like, there's a wall there.
See, the thing is, though,
eventually you just have to kill the bus driver and drive the bus yourself. Because otherwise everyone dies, right? Like,
no, I agree. I think I just optimistically have faith in
the bus driver is going to figure it out.
That the smart people are going to win.
They're going to convince the bus driver.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's tough because I don't know. I don't have a bunch of examples to pull out, but I guess I'm just optimistic, and I have faith that like we have more smarts and technology than we've ever had, like by a long shot, and we're increasing at a rapid rate. And there's a problem that people who are smart know about and are putting energy into solving. And we have people who are rich talking about it and making it a known thing. We're working at it. Disney World has recyclable straws, which is a huge leap for mankind. It's going to solve the problem. And because of that, we'll be all right.
So when is like the last time that you ever saw that happen in America? Like when's the last time there was like a big important threat? Like
coronavirus. Right.
It's working great.
And look at us now. Yeah, I'm getting my vaccine in like 4 days.
Yeah. It only took a year. It's crazy. 500,000 people died.
It is true though. I mean, wasn't a great situation. We definitely did a bunch wrong, but we got some stuff together. We elected a guy who could like do some stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
A little bit more
that's
about
literally what I'm saying though. It's like the only solution in that case is to like have government mandate things.
That one, it was really helpful to have the government in on that one.
Yeah.
That was a big help.
Because the market is not incentivized to do it, right? No businesses are incentivized to just shut down and not let people in.
For sure.
Right? No people are incentivized to like stop working and just hang out at their house. Like the market incentives are all fucked up and they're antisocial incentives, right? And so when the market has antisocial incentives, the only option is to have the government step in and be like, here's a bunch of money to make this go away.
Yep. I don't know, man. It's been good. It's good.
It's been good. This is a wild podcast. We didn't talk about any of the things we had to talk about.
Can we touch on open source really quick?
Yeah, let's
because that's how we end our podcasts now, with like really juicy conversations that we can't finish. Mark Swanson. Pretty sure it's Mark Swanson. Matt Swanson. You know him?
This is the Ruby guy, right?
Yeah. Yep. Shout out to Matt Swanson, listener of the show, and he's just been engaging in really like cool, helpful ways on Twitter. Sure. So I just like want to shout him out, like in general. But he are you drinking during the show, Deke?
It's
creme de la creme.
Cream soda.
So he was like, hey, yeah, about your whole like open source licensing thing, and he pointed me to some other licenses and to this whole thing with Google and Java, Google and Oracle, Google like ripping off. I don't even know the details, like technical details, but like basically what did Google do? They like created a new system where the API was, let's just for this thought experiment, this is not fact. Let's say that Java exists and has a bunch of SDKs and APIs for stuff like whatever, making network requests and stuff. And Google was like, all right, well, we're going to create our own thing because of whatever reason. I honestly haven't studied up on this since I read about it, but we're going to create our own thing because we don't want to make a deal with Oracle or because something. But because all the developers know that Oracle stuff and it's pretty good API, we're just going to jack the API. So it's the exact same API. This is a great example of the stuff we've been talking about. And so it went to court and they just legislated that that it's all right, Google. It's like not like basically like you can steal APIs. It's not
for sure from open source code. Yeah,
it wasn't open source.
Oh, well, this is like what Compaq did, right? Like this is you ever watch that Halt and Catch Fire show?
No.
It's about like the start of Compaq.
Oh, cool.
And it's basically like they're like a ragamuffin Texas tech company.
Okay.
And they want to make a PC that's interoperable with the IBM PC.
Okay.
And so they have a stolen copy of the BIOS.
Okay.
That's like a printed out book.
Oh.
And they have an IBM PC, but they can't just use this code because then they're stolen it. So they hire like a smart programmer to like build it without ever reading the BIOS.
Nice. Yep.
It's a really interesting thing.
It's very interesting, and this is kind of the same idea here. And so it sent me down a little bit of a rabbit hole on this decision, and so the thing I ended up like reading somewhere was like copyright is not meant to protect authors. That's not its original intent. It's not meant to reward authorship, basically. So this is all good. The original intent of copyright is to spur innovation and creativity first, by protecting authors for a specific amount of time,
period of time, right?
For a limited period of time, to give them the opportunity to, reap the benefits of that innovation and keep innovating. But then it's like good to have like stuff freely available, and not like locked down. It's for the public good. So that was interesting to me. That was just an interesting thing, because I'm still struggling with this whole ripoff thing, because there's that part of me that loves that everything is open and free and available, and just has that optimism of like the free, transparent world where like everything is great and innovators innovate and nobody does anything bad and it's all good. But then that other part of me, the part of me that sort of sees some of the dark side of that, that's like, oh, this is why copyright exists. This is why patents exist. This is why we have protections against people, just stealing other people's work. So I don't know. I don't really have any new thoughts on that, but
yeah. No, I mean, I don't want to go on a whole other rant about capitalism, but
yeah, right. but we're here, so
this is like the worst episode to tack this on the end of, because I feel like I've already drained my soul.
No, we don't have to get into it. I did just watch your labor spiel, Daniel Inkar getting coffee, talking about the value of labor, and it was great. I mean, it's nothing I don't know because I'm friends with you, but it was good to hear it, succinctly portrayed.
Yeah, the secrecy thing is really interesting.
Yes,
this is the thing, is like I am much stronger on tech company labor policy than I am on like global supply chain management, right? Like this whole conversation has been very like flying off the hip for me, and like I enjoy it because like those are my favorite conversations. Like, I don't fucking know, I'll make up a solution, right? A solution that's consistent with my worldview, right?
Yep.
But like I'm not like an educated person when it comes to like,
thank you for acknowledging that,
macroeconomics, right?
So I don't like
so you don't have to deal with all the tweets.
No, so that I don't like assume you have like read up on all this stuff more than you have,
well, this is the thing. It's like I don't actually know how much there is that I don't know, right? So like I could be totally right on some things, but then there's other things where there's like a whole variable I don't know about.
It's good conversation. It's all fair play. Like I learned a lot for sure, but it's like, it's helpful to know that like, I mean, I'm always shooting from the hip.
Good. Thank God.
So it's good to know.
What would the show be if we weren't
as dumb as me? Daniel? Oh, on the labor thing. Okay, here was a thought I had when I watched your thing. So everybody, if you want, go to danielcolborn.com/YouTube. Just kidding. Go to YouTube and search Daniel Colborn because it'll come up, right?
Or just go on my Twitter. It's a couple days or like a week ago.
And he just is driving in a car and talking about the value of labor and whatnot. And here I'm going to give this spiel to the user because I'm going to do it real quick.
Cool.
You got labor. That's people doing stuff for money. Sometimes not even for money. And what is it? The value of work, 100% of the value of work is labor.
100% of the value of everything is labor.
Oh, right. Okay. So the value of everything is labor, right? People doing work. And there's situations on one end of the spectrum, like slavery, where the people who are doing the work capture $0 of the whatever, 0% of the value of their labor. Not cool. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have something like a collective or something where everybody collects 100% of the value of their labor. And then you have the stuff in between, and then we'll just put our finger on the map at tech agencies and how some agencies, I guess like there's a whole spectrum of agencies where how much do the workers capture of their own labor. And so you have a situation where you might be paid like, 30 grand a year, let's say, but the agency charges like 250 an hour for your work. And so they're paying you all the, benefits, of course, in excess of your salary, but they're also taking like a massive chunk, and generally they're hiding it from you. They're doing this and they're like, and you don't know how much they charge. Like, it's difficult to get the information of like how much they charge per hour, if there's other investors that they have to pay off. And like, these are all company secrets. And so Daniel basically posits like, that's a smell. Like, if your company has a bunch of secrets and you don't know like how much people make, how much they charge, what their revenue is, if there's investors in the company, like if there's stuff like that, like the more secrets there are, it's more of a red flag that there's more theft. Yes, theft of labor. So I'm going to start this by saying that I don't necessarily agree with anything you said.
Great.
Just so that nobody thinks that I'm like on a bandwagon. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I do respect it. I hear it, and I agree with a good amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thought I have, but I walk into all of these conversations extremely hesitantly.
Mm-hmm. Good.
For two reasons. One,
it's better content if we disagree.
Way better content if we disagree. Devil's advocate. I also like have a really hard time like taking something that I don't, that I don't have. I can't connect the dots myself. Like, I could just like repeat everything you said, but I wouldn't own it. I need to own it, of course. And yeah, so I can't just inherit like a bunch of opinions.
Sure.
And that's that. And that's why I position myself the way I position myself. But Dan Cole, so here's the thought I had about capturing value of labor. So if all the value of right, this is the thing that you have to help me along with. The 100% of the value, what is it? All value is, what's the thing? All value is labor?
Yeah, all value comes from labor.
All value comes from labor.
I left out and natural resources, but labor and natural
that's actually
resources
helpful.
Are the only two sources of value.
Right. So like, what about a situation where, what about a car wash company? That's what popped into my head. Like, you own a car wash franchise. They maintain themselves. It's a machine.
Sure, someone built that machine.
To people. Right. So let's say a machine built that machine.
Right. Someone.
Okay. So one person builds a machine.
But
one person.
So automation is a whole other conversation. Let's just leave out automation for now.
Okay. Then let's say, I live. You're going to pick this one apart for other reasons. I am born on a natural spring water fountain.
Yes.
I have really good access to clean water.
Mm-hmm.
And I sell access to that clean water because it's my land. And you might say no one owns land, maybe? Like Color to the Wind type deal? Or no? Okay.
I we'll go on with it. Own land. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I own land. This is my fountain. Okay, that's the natural resource thing. So forget about that.
So you're selling natural resources.
Right. Okay. I am born. That would be my labor. Let's see.
Here's the common counterexample.
Great. Thank you for steel manning my argument.
Yeah. So the common counterexample is I take $50 and I put it in the stock market and it comes back as $100.
Okay.
I didn't do any work for that $100.
Yeah, I guess, but someone did.
Right. And that's the point.
My brain would go there.
Right. And that's like the rebuttal to that. Right. But it's like, that's an important one to note because like that quickly covers all of the like investment or like money earning money sort of things. Is that like money only earns money because value is added to your money by someone else's labor.
Right. So, okay. So here's the two things. The one thing that got stuck in my head was automation, but you've sort of declared that like a different conversation. And so great. We'll like put automation aside for a sec. Let's say this is probably the more common counter that you'll definitely have a response for. I'm a proprietor. I realize that in the world, there doesn't exist an inexpensive, delicious cheeseburger and fries and milkshake. These things don't even exist.
Sure.
But I dream them up because I do a ton of research into the methods. I spend years.
This is exactly, by the way, what Adam started DMing me about this immediately.
Adam.
Well, then the direction you're going, Adam went the exact same
Yeah, yeah,
place.
yeah. Oh, great. Okay, yeah, because you could use the same thing with stuff that. Okay, right. So I'm pouring years and years into the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I learned chemistry. I spend my entire life perfecting the cheeseburger.
Sure.
And then I go and I create my first McCaleb's.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to McCaleb's and right. So I start producing these myself, but I go, you know what? I should be spending all my time on the hard whatever. Okay. So I hire somebody $10 an hour to flip McCaleb's burgers and sell them. Right. And I pay them a pretty low wage, but the burger costs a lot. And I'm capturing all that money because I'm like, well, I'm the guy who made, this is a trade secret.
So let's take for a moment the idea that like, once you get down into the nitty gritty of how do you calculate the value of different types and amounts of labor, the questions are harder. But I think that that's a good place to be because that means that you've already accepted the premise that all value comes from labor, if we're having that conversation.
Oh, I guess. I mean, I'd have to really think about it, but sure.
I just want to get away from, this is like a common thing that happens in these sorts of debates is that because you can't build me the entire world with all of the specifics, that your basic premise is flawed, right? And so I would argue that just because there are still questions once you dig past the surface level doesn't mean that the actual premise is untrue. It just means that because the premise is true, now we have to answer a bunch of new questions.
Well, I don't think that means that either. It just means but there are questions we have to answer.
If the premise is true, there are still questions we need to answer, right?
For sure. What's the value of intellectual property, of innovations, stuff like that?
Ignore intellectual property, but innovation is a great question, right? Because innovation is a kind of labor, right?
Okay.
And it adds value. So let's assume for a moment, and I'm not saying that this is true, right? Or that this is the right way to do it, but let's assume that all we care about is hours of labor done.
Yep.
Right? So say you put in 2,000 hours of upfront work getting to the point where you could open the business, right? And say that we were somehow able to distinguish like when you were learning chemistry in a way that was just fun and when you were learning chemistry in a way that actually led to, right?
I put 100,000 hours in.
Sure. Let's say you put 100,000 hours in, right?
Yeah.
And then you hire a person and they...
Oh, and I'm a savant. My 100,000 hours is worth 1,000,000 hours of a simpleton.
That's not a thing.
Innovation comes from it was divine. I am a prophet, and it came from the divine. Daniel.
Okay.
Why? So I guess I'm trying to throw a wrench in your quantifying my initial effort.
Right. Why are you trying to do that?
Because that's an intangible.
No, but Caleb, what I'm saying is like, let's get slightly more complex one step at a time.
Okay, all right. And I'm throwing it 2 steps. I get you. Heard.
I was like, yes, why are you doing the wrench in my works? Okay, but let's say that like you do 100,000 hours of work, right?
Yeah.
Doing the thing. So then you hire a person for $10 an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for every hour that person works, you make $20 in profit for their $10 of, right?
Yeah.
So like they keep $10, you keep $20 every time they work, right? At some point, this person has now worked 100,000 hours, right? So the business just stays. You put in no additional labor, right? You just sit there and collect checks, and they put in all the labor. And eventually they have now worked 100,000 hours in this business, and you have also worked 100,000 hours in this business.
Right.
And yet you are keeping twice as much money as they are.
So, okay. Yes.
How I would argue that at that point, there's no way to claim that you are not exploiting this person. Okay.
So their 100,000 hours is burger flipping 100,000 hours. It's McCaleb burger flipping. Mm-hmm. My 100,000 is Harvard level scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not different 100,000s.
What do you mean?
Okay. I innovate on something. You know what I'm saying? Like if I have a ton of knowledge and am wicked smart.
Yeah, but I mean, there are, we can go down this route, right? Of saying like,
I think that's one of the big
right,
wrenches in
and
operation.
that's why I'm saying that like just doing this purely by hours is an oversimplification of everything.
Right.
Right.
Great. Right. Then let's zoom in a level
because
beyond.
there are other things
hours.
too, right? Which is that like flipping burgers is really boring, whereas learning is really interesting. So maybe people should get paid more to do shittier work, right?
No, let's say that you did your thing that you do sometimes when you like pause and you go. I've drawn this to your attention before, right? It's just a little like so tiny and so subtle. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So okay, but like let's assume for a second that like 100,000 hours is 100,000 hours, okay?
Yeah.
And that like one is like more physically demanding, one's more mentally demanding, one's more boring, one's more fun. Who cares? 100,000 hours is 100,000 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you get to the point where like you've both worked 100,000 hours on this business. Mm-hmm. How does one person have a right to 2/3 of the money?
Because they started it.
Why? Why does that give them the right to 2/3 of the money?
Because that spark is like,
that spark was generated by 100,000 hours of labor. They're already being compensated for that spark.
No, it's infinity.
That's bullshit. That's a lie.
No, the proprietor assembles the things.
Okay, so now that person dies, right? You did that $100,000 of investment. You die. Your son now owns the business.
Yep.
That person's done zero labor, and yet he still deserves 2/3 of my money.
Yeah, no, he's the progeny of the person who started it. It's
so what? Who cares?
I guess
that person has done nothing to deserve this thing.
So this is where the evil capitalist in me comes out. Uh-huh. Why can't the person, like, if you're wicked smart and you assemble some things and create something that generates income, value, revenue, whatever, provides value, generates income. Okay, this is so primitive. Please dismantle this immediately. Why don't I get to make the rules and benefit in the ways I want to benefit? It's this concept. I think what it doesn't take.
So I think let's get to the bottom of this. Right? Generally speaking, you do have the right to do, like, this is generally what I would say. You have the right to do whatever you want until it starts hurting society.
Right. So at some scale, this mode of thinking where like society. I'm the proprietor, I assembled a thing, because at a small scale, it's like I created, whatever. I created Make VS Code awesome, provides a bunch of value, but the internet doesn't exist. So I'm having people, I'm having monks write down the book and they're getting paid some small amount while I'm taking a bunch of the money. And I can do that because it's my work, it's my rules, it's a small thing. Yeah. But alternately, I create, I figure out fossil fuels. I discover steam and generators and energy and motors and everything. I invent it all out of thin air, and now it's mine and I own it, but the entire world uses and relies on it, and I make all the rules. That's bad. Like at some point, like... Right.
So to your original question though of like, why can't I? You can. Like, you have the power to do that in the current system because it's a bad system, right? Like, you can do that. I'm just saying you didn't earn that money. That money is unearned, gotcha. And the other person is earning that money, and you're taking it from them by power. And so that's called theft.
Interesting. Daniel, it's tough because
if all money is earned, right? If every single money that is changed, if every single money's is earned, right? A money cannot be transferred without being earned. That's a good example of saying all value comes from labor, right?
Okay.
All money transferred is earned. Someone earns it, right? And if you are dead...
I don't connect that dot. You just decide you're going to give me $100 right now. Do it. Let's do this as an example,
sure,
actually.
Let's not say gifts.
No, let's actually literally do this as an example.
Okay, can we say that gifts actually don't affect supply and demand curves at all?
Okay, I love it. I'm in. So let's say that I give you a haircut because God knows you need one. And that's a joke, by the way. My hair is twice as long as yours. I give you a haircut and charge you $10, and then I earn it. Okay, so gifts aside, okay, earned, sure.
Right.
I'm in the stock market. I make $100. I earned that.
No, you didn't earn that. Someone else earned it, and you stole it.
Okay, great. So, so in that case, the value is transferred without it being earned.
No, it's earned by someone. It's just the value doesn't always end up in the pocket of the person who earned it.
I'm with it. Okay. Go on.
So what I'm saying is, when you are dead, you are doing no earning, but there's still money being transferred, right? So you have to ask who earned that money, right? Because that money was earned by someone who earned it. Well, the only possible answer is that the laborers, the people who actually did the work to cause that transaction to happen, those are the people who earned it, right?
If you consider earning let's say you have a complex machine like a MacBook, right?
Right. So this again.
100%.
But again,
no.
Caleb,
I think this is a
please stay in the simple example first before we go to the complex example.
No, I think I am.
But you won't answer the question on the simple example. You only want to take it to the complex example first. So
okay, I'll answer the question on the simple example. Give it to me.
Okay.
The guy dies.
So you're dead.
I'm dead.
Who earned that money?
The next burger flipper at McCaleb. And now that $30 burger where they get $10 of it, and I normally get 20, but now I'm dead. I still earned the money.
You're dead. There is no you.
Right. It goes in. I decide. That's the thing. Like, we can't even talk about death. We can't talk about death.
Okay, sure.
That's another variable.
So you earned 20. So let's say you're alive, right? You're alive and well. You and the laborer have both now done 100,000 hours of labor, right? So like total time invested in the business, we're now.
Well, then we're back to the reduction of just hours being the only quantifier.
Sure. Here's what I'm saying. Like you're paying this person $10 an hour, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they're generating $30 an hour, and you're keeping 20, right? Why is it that you have earned $20 an hour instead of $15 an hour? How do you know that the value of your labor is exactly 20 instead of 15?
Because I decide that, and this is it. Because I can get somebody to do that work for 10.
Right.
If I could get somebody to do it for 5, I would.
But why do you get to? So you get to decide the value of your own labor, is what you're saying? Everyone gets to decide the value of their own labor?
No, the value. No, for me. Well, yes, totally. I get to decide that. No. The market tells me what the value of my labor is.
What do you mean?
The market said that they'll pay $30 for a burger, and the market also said that they'll flip a burger for $5 an hour. And so, great, let's do that. $5 an hour for the burger flip.
But if you go put a gun to someone's head, they'll flip a burger for $0 an hour. Is that the
market? I think that's offsides.
Why is that offsides? No, that's absolutely not offsides.
Totally is.
No, because people will starve and die if they don't get money to eat, right? It's the same thing.
Wait. If I put a gun to your head and said, "Pay me $1,000 for this cheeseburger," you would.
Yes, I would.
Doesn't mean the cheeseburger's worth $1,000.
I thought the value was whatever people would pay for it.
The going rate, Daniel, without guns being held to every person in the world's head.
But Caleb, guns are being held to every person in the world's head because everyone will starve if they don't get money, right? Every laborer has a gun at their head.
So,
especially burger flipping laborers have a gun at their head.
I'm not drawing the line, Daniel.
Okay, so if I don't get the money, I starve and die.
Right.
That's a gun at my head. I don't
think that's right. I feel like that we just made a huge leap there.
Sure. Okay, let's assume that there's not a welfare state, right? Let's assume that there's not, all sorts of other things to save people from capitalism, right? But essentially, if a person, and let's assume that I'm not willing to go steal food to live, right?
Yep.
And that I'm a very moral person, and I will only make a purchase with money to get food to live, right? That's my only option. So if I do not work and get money, I will die of starvation, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
And so what
yes,
that means,
for now.
What that means is that I will work for as little as is necessary for me to survive, right? And if I don't have any power in the situation to demand more money than literally starvation wages,
Yep.
right?
Then I'll ride that wave for sure.
Right. And so what that means is so in a dynamic between an employer and an employee, right? One has all the power, or there's a balance of power, right? Each has some certain amount of power, right?
Yeah. All the laborers could decide that if we can live without food for 5 days, but this guy can't live without money for 2 days.
Right.
We'll stop working for him, starve him out.
Sure. That's not even what I'm talking about, though, right? Like, I'm specifically talking about like what is right, not like who has the power, right? And I think this is the thing, is that like the idea is that like the value of my labor, or the value of my labor of like innovation or whatever, is literally whatever I'm capable of getting, right?
Yes.
That's how much it's worth. It's worth whatever I can extract, right? And whereas I think that labor actually has a value, and you should know what it is up front, and then whatever's left over is by nature the value of whoever's doing the work.
What if you're the person doing the work? What if it's an ebook?
Yeah, then you own 100% of the value. What do you mean?
What if it's an ebook and you have to have like one employee who like sells it or something?
Sure. How much work is that person doing?
Let's say they're working full time and I'm not working at all.
Right. That's a good question. Intellectual property is an interesting question.
You know what I'm saying?
Right? Adam's question was like, Adam's example was like, say you invent like a cool sandwich, right?
Yeah.
And McDonald's says, hey, we're going to let you sell that sandwich in McDonald's stores, right?
Yep.
You're going to make way more money on that sandwich selling it in a McDonald's than you would have selling it somewhere else, right? So like, how much of the value of that sandwich is McDonald's creating, even though they're not doing any work? You're selling it in the stores, you're making the sandwiches, you're doing everything.
Right.
But
you're not doing everything.
But like,
if you were doing everything, you could do it on your own.
Right. But the thing that you're not doing is like creating the brand of the Golden Arches and doing the marketing that gets people in the doors.
Exactly. The years and years and years of everything that went into that.
Right. And I think that there's a bunch of people working.
I guess here's maybe where I'm at. You can't quantify that stuff.
Of course you can't.
So what we go off of is what the market will let you do.
Why that instead of any other bad quantification?
What's another bad quantification?
Hours worked.
Because it's way worse.
Why is it way worse?
I think that's because you can't quantify. Okay, why is it worse? Well, so we've already established that it's bad.
Right.
So how do we figure why is the market demanding it worse?
Because it leads to massive income inequality and people dying who don't need to die because they don't have healthcare because they can't afford it. So they die because they can't afford insulin.
Right. So the hours worked undervalues the inventors, proprietors, and people who, you know what I mean?
Right. And I would say undervaluing those people is better than undervaluing the laborers, which is what the current system does.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So like if you have to err on one side or the other, undervalue the rich people instead of undervaluing the poor people.
Yeah. So how does this work? What do? You like, let's just say that everybody just has like a really good conscience and agrees to like, yeah, we'll go with that. So then they still have to figure out a way to quantify their own hours, and they're incentivized to over quantify.
Sure. Obviously. Yeah. Time tracking software is difficult. So same thing with taxes. Everyone's encouraged to lie on their taxes, right? Everyone's incentivized to lie on their taxes. Ultimately, the system kind of works out generally. Right?
No, the taxes are a concrete thing.
What do you mean?
That you can lie or not lie.
No, there's lots of things that are very vague in taxes, right?
Like what?
Oh, like I bought this MacBook and I did play a lot of RuneScape on it, but I also did use it a lot for work. Is that a work expense? I don't know.
Definitely vague. Sure.
You know?
Daniel, don't use real examples.
Oh no, that's not me. That's like another person.
I was just joking. Auditors listen to the show.
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel. So where do we leave this here? You're saying, all right, so taxes are a hard thing to quantify. Well, so are hours. So how does that help us? If we're incentivized to lie, like.
Right. Well, it's exactly the same thing. It's like, yeah, there is some self-reporting required, right? And like eventually you could like go back and audit and be like, all right, well, let me see the receipts. Like, how much time did you actually spend on this, you know? And like maybe that happens to a random selection of people, and like some people go to prison for lying for it, you know?
It's
In the
pretty
same way that
tough, dude.
taxes are.
This whole thing is so much easier in the agency scenario because the most of what you're getting is the work. You're paying for work, like
No, that's not
directly.
true because like Titan has a brand, right? Titan's an
No, I
incredibly
know,
big
but you know what I mean? Like the thing that you're transacting, like
Mm-hmm.
if you went to Titan in with a product company with like McCaleb's, it's like you're either going to get the McCaleb burger that's signature and has the secret sauce, or you're going to get the off-brand that's not good and they don't have the sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Where with like Titan, like half the people could leave Titan, just decide to be entrepreneurs on their own, and I'd be getting the same thing. You know what I mean? If I hired them. So anyway, I guess what I'm just saying is everything's more straightforward in an agency scenario where it's more like,
yeah, and that's why I love agencies.
Titan didn't invent
That's
something.
why I love agencies as like the breeding ground for these ideas, is that like an agency is the most nakedly straightforward example of this type of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Very true, yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it just requires a little bit of abstraction to like see that like Netflix is exactly the same as an agency, right? They have a certain amount of money coming in. They have people in the middle who are doing all the work to keep that money coming in. And then they have people who are taking the extra money on the back end.
The hard thing is that agencies are selling hours of work generally.
Right. But I mean, so is Netflix, right? It's like however many hours of work are getting done, that's what they're selling.
No. Because if they, like Netflix could just be like, all right, well, like, no, Netflix, because it's a digital copyable thing. A stream can be streamed 10,000 times more and not cost any more labor.
That's not true though, because like they're
assuming that like the servers are super. No, like servers are great. It's all.
Why do we assume that?
Daniel, we're assuming that oh my gosh.
I hear you. Go for it.
You understand? Like it's a valid. Like I don't have to justify what I'm saying, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like digital copying is like another wrench in this operation.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Because you think that like Reed Hastings should keep. So if revenue increases 10x for the same amount of money, right? Like say like.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like for an agency to make 10x, they produce 10x more work. You know, for Netflix to produce 10x more people sign up.
Right.
You know, it's not like Netflix has to hire a bunch of people to like roll the tape for all those people. It's like, it's the same system.
For sure. I mean, I think that there are generally like levers that cause people to sign up, and those things are caused by work.
This part of the conversation is happening right now, Daniel, because you drew a parallel between agencies and Netflix and said it's the same thing. I said no. So it's not the same.
No, but I think they are this. So I would argue that they should be the same thing. Right.
Right. Yes, that's what you're arguing.
And so, but like that, the percentages
we started this by saying
agencies should stay the same.
Agencies are a good example because they're transparently this.
Yeah.
Netflix is not because it's not.
It's not transparent.
Otherwise, we're just circling back to the beginning.
Yeah. It's not transparently that for sure.
Yes. All right, Daniel. I mean, we're at an hour and 43. I feel like we
finally did like an episode where we actually didn't talk about anything except for like Daniel's crazy beliefs about things.
It's true, but it's relevant in the sense that we talk about. It's relevant for me as a like budding proprietor, you know, because like these are good things to and you too. These are good things to kind of figure out, talk about, and yeah. So what I'm very interested in. You know what the good thing is here? You're the one with these moral stances.
Yeah, I'm the one who's gonna have to go fucking do something with them.
Exactly. This is the game I'm playing, like morally ambiguous, just, you know, kind of hearing all sides.
Yeah, let's just hear what you have to say, you know.
Exactly, but like you're going to go and build a business and I get to throw this in your face.
It's going to be great.
When you start profiting like big time.
And this is the thing that I'm honestly most excited for. Like is
the opportunity to be called on it?
No, the opportunity to actually try this and see if any of it works.
Oh, to try it and see if it okay.
You know, like to see
because the interesting thing is you're a money-making guy. Like I know that about you. Like
I like
you're
to make
a
money.
skeeving, like dirty.
Skeeving. I'm not dirty. Come on.
I'm just joking. No, you're like an actually like enterprising person. You know.
Yeah.
like who wants to like generate wealth.
Oh, I love generating wealth.
And this is hilarious to me that like you've putting your foot down on all this stuff, but extremely.
You know what I like, Caleb? I like earning
admirable.
money. I like to get money that I earned. You know?
Right. So we're gonna have to quantify some of that earning, Daniel.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. Is like getting into a situation where I'm not just the laborer sitting here like saying I earned more money than this. Like you should give me more money than this. No, I earned more. I earned more. Right. But getting into a situation where like somewhat like I'm really interested to just test my own mettle, to test my own morality, to test my own beliefs, to test the practicality of the things that I think are practical, right? Yeah. And like go out and be like, oh, like no, you earned more than this. Like here's what you actually earned. Like I can quantify it because I know how much money came in, I know how much money went out, and like I know how many of us worked how much. You earned a lot more money than you think you did, right? I had a really cool 2-hour conversation with Jeff Segal from Twitter. Do you know this person?
Yeah, he's ViewSelect.
ViewSelect. I had like a 2-hour conversation on Zoom with Jeff Segal the other day.
Oh, seriously?
He also wants to start an agency that is a collective and is based on kind of Marxist principles.
Word.
So we might do that at some point.
Do it.
We're just talking.
You'd be a good person to do it with.
Talking.
It's a couple of dudes.
Talking. That's really cool.
All right, Daniel, my eyes are starting to gloss over. Should we check this YouTube live stream?
Long. Yeah.
Is there really 14 people still watching?
I can't believe they're still watching, honestly. 15.
All right, I'm going to throw in the chat. Like, who's still watching?
I'm from Poland. Poland is divided into East and West, mental, like EU. Daniel,
we get a lot to catch
got
up
his
on.
History lessons from the Communist Manifesto. You have no idea what it was like in the USSR before capitalism came and collapsed. Probably true. How much is the labor you took to learn to make the
capitalism is fucking blessing. You're just spoiled by living in a rich country. Get him.
Wait, where's this?
Michael Snigursky.
Michael.
He's the guy who said that thing about the USSR.
Oh,
Nuno's watching. Hey, Nuno. All right, should we end the recording so that we don't make everybody listen to us talking to the chat people?
Oh, yeah, we probably should.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. We're going to stay on YouTube.
It's pretty fun.
Right, hang out in the chat. Wait, what? Hang out in the YouTube live if you're listening to the podcast.
Caleb, do you want to cue the outro music?
Cueing it now.
Bum-ba-dum.
Okay, and now we're
recording is done. Very good.
Nice. So that's crazy that people like who listened to the whole thing.
I mean, I think Nuno's been here most of it. Sam's been here most of it.
That's pretty bonkers, man.
All right, can I go back to eating my meat stick?
Yeah,
I was eating little pieces of it, but I was trying.
I'm gonna call this Capitalism.
A love story.
FTW.
All right, where's my file for you, sir? Here it is, Daniel. Reveal and Finder.
Folks, you are witnessing. Feel free to hang out in the chat while we do this. You are witnessing the post No Plans to Merge process, which consists of like 10 minutes of effort here. Josh Hanley, hey man, good to hear from you. He's been here since 30 minutes, says Sam. That's pretty good. Matt Swanson, ha!
Oh, he's here.
Did he know we shouted him out?
Did he know he was shouted out on the pod?
Oh, he was gonna rewind to get early access to the podcast episode. That's funny.
Nice. You were shouted out in the podcast episode, so look forward to that.
As background music counts. As a background music counts, definitely counts. Background music. We are good background music. Matt doesn't know that we shouted him out. Yeah. We're like, and I'm sorry, Matt. I called you Mark until we figured out that your name is Matt. Because I just recognize shapes for Twitter names. Yeah, dude, we were talking about that stuff you sent me on, like, well, just all the stuff that you've sent.
The licensing stuff, like, yeah.
But the licensing stuff specifically, yeah.
This is fun. I like doing streams, and it's gonna be so easy to like pull
little
clips out now. Although that one is gonna be pretty hard to pull clips out of because it was all like these long building arguments.
You know what we need to do?
Huh?
Yeah, that one is gonna be basically one giant clip. We need to just woke up not too long ago and saw your tweet. Josh, he's an Australian. So that's funny. Aaron Francis. So Alpine Day. We didn't talk about anything people wanted to talk. No, we talked about fishing. People wanted us to talk about fishing. No. Yeah, we got to talk about Alpine Day. I've like been so close to. I'm having Jack McDade work on the design for it, so that part is happening. I still don't know what it's going to be. Daniel is in on Alpine Day, but I don't know what to make it. Like, we came up with this whole plan. Daniel is way smirkier on video than in smirkier.
I do be smirking.
Yeah, Decole's got hard smirks. Yeah, Alpine Day.
We don't know.
So I don't know what to do. I basically let me know. Oh wait, so I don't lose my train of thought here really quick before we talk Alpine Day. Mm-hmm. Oh, what we should do in future episodes is have people that are watching it live. I want a stinking burger now. Me too. People who are watching it live, throw something in the chat if it should be clipped. You know, like if there's an interesting part of the show, like this is like crowdsourced clips.
Yes.
What me and Daniel want to do is like have a bunch of YouTube clips, like Joe Rogan does, like, you know, maybe 3 10-minute bits from the episode, you know, because we change topics so often. But we tried to do it live, and it's really difficult to be in a conversation and like jot down a timestamp of a conversation you think is worthy of snippeting, you know. So that could be fun.
Yeah. So what we should do is have the live listeners just say like clip it in the show, in the chat, and then we can go back and review the chat and find the timelines of when people said clip it.
Yep. That's really good. I like that a lot. We'll announce that next time. Did you send me your thing there, Deke?
Sure did, bud.
Thanks, bud. Mm-hmm. Did you make the thing on Transistor?
Nope, bud. I was eating meat stick.
Bud, get off that meat stick.
Hop off that meat stick.
Hop off that meat stick.
All right, transistor.fm. What are we calling this one?
Should we have the listeners name it?
Listeners, what are we calling it? Give us names. 15 seconds. 1.
Yep, 15 seconds later. 119 minutes sitting on a chair without a back.
That's you. He's talking about you. You're standing, though.
Oh, funny.
He thinks you're sitting on a chair without a back.
Oh, wow. Does my back really look that citty?
Yeah, you look like you're sitting on a chair. But he's standing. Why? Just back up from the mic and show the people. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. He's standing.
Legs. Yep, legs. I don't actually own an office chair anymore, but I do own a stool. But honestly, I stand most of the time.
Fishing, canoe rental, DIY canoe rental. Fishing, DIY canoe rental, Bill Gates. Stealing labor. All right, those are good things. I need to stop doing. I love like bullet lists, but I need to stop doing them because they look bad in the podcast app I learned. So I need to do comma separated lists, unfortunately.
Word up.
Stealing labor.
Okay. This is the part where I like pause for a second to figure out where to put the end. Queuing it now. Audio in. And now we got to equalize these puppies.
Don't call it Mark Swanson. That would be a bad title.
Is there a 5G chip in my canoe? What? What is this a reference to?
I don't know.
Mark Swanson.
Oh, you have to watch Patriot. I know we like got really off the topic, but you have to watch Patriot on Amazon tonight, Caleb.
I don't know if
Episode 1.
Are you thinking of Ron Swanson?
Mark Swanson? John Swanson?
Oh,
that's true. We should just call this episode Nuno Maduro. That's true.
Yep.
We should just call this one like all about Alpine. What did we talk about today? I'm just calling it Capitalism, a love story if you don't come up with something better.
No, that's great. Yep, that's good. All right, I gotta equalize these now.
I have saved it as a draft for you.
Volume levels. This is so funny that our listener count our watcher count is going up
as we're finish the episode.
Don't do any podcasting. Episode 1, I was here. Oh, are you saying that you were here for episode 1,
or that in this new format, this is the first episode and you were here for that?
Right. Either way.
Congrats.
Congrats.
A little post-pod cheese is always really good.
Dude, I haven't even seen you in a while. There you go. There's that cheese.
The lighting in my room looks really good right now.
It's like somewhere it just switched to red during the podcast.
During the pod. Probably the light outside changed and that made everything.
Yeah, it seemed like it just flipped on. Michaela Burger. Yeah, that's a good title. Just need to stall for 2 hours every time. Yeah, I could definitely go for a burger. Alpine Day. I'm still trying to figure out what Alpine Day should be, because I want to go hard and make it a full conference day, but I'm like, do people even want to pay for that? Is it going to be a huge failure? Basically, the thing that the big question is, am I charging for this thing? Because if I'm charging for it, then I'm going to feel bad when no one shows up. If I'm not charging for it, and by the way, if I'm charging for it, 100% of the money's going to other people, not to me. But still, if I charge for it and nobody shows up, I'm going to feel like an idiot. That's my fear. Did you test Livewire with Octane? I have not. Taylor PR'd stuff to Octane. We talked about it a little bit. He tested it. Yeah, what did I say?
To Octane.
And he also added something in Laravel so that Livewire works with Octane and Laravel. We didn't talk about one-time GitHub sponsor stuff. Have we talked about that at some point? How does Matt know about that? I don't know if we talked about that. It's been 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I have a question. Did you test Livewire? So did not test Livewire with Octane personally. It's just going to make Livewire faster, at least. It could unlock a ton of incredible stuff for Livewire. I honestly think that it's going to be insane in the future. But for right now, it just means that Livewire is going to work with it, because Livewire doesn't have any special plumbing, there's nothing that Livewire uses that's not just Laravel network requests. So it's just going to work. Because Taylor made one PR so that it'll work with long running requests. But yeah, and I tagged that version already. So the latest Livewire should work with Octane. But in the future, I think we could use some real-time stuff for servers and events and crazy stuff. It does, dude. Oh, nice. Yes, Sam says it does. Cool.
Yeah, I saw a PR come into Ziggy as well for that. I guess Taylor went out to all the packages that are used in his packages or something. I think both of those are in official first-party packages as dependencies.
Right. Yep. Yeah, thanks, Josh. Shout out to Josh for being an all-star Livewire contributor. He's been incredible. I don't know if we talked about him, D-Cole. You know who he is?
The name is familiar. I don't know what
killer dude who basically just puts a ton of effort into making Livewire better and absorbing garbage issues.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Super.
Shouts out Josh.
Shouts out to Josh. All right, so this one called Capitalism, NPTM. This is good because we can hang out with the listener while we're doing the upload
and
everything, and it's great because I'm editing on my computer so that my fan's going like crazy, and you're streaming, so I'm not killing my thing. This is
the
great.
Streaming thing feels really chill.
Yeah, I dig it.
It's way easier than having to upload a YouTube video.
No, I'm super pumped about how fast it's going to make Livewire. So pumped that, yeah. Because in my thought experiment, if there was no such thing as network latency, there'd be no reason to use anything but Livewire, why wouldn't you? If there was no such thing as network latency. So I kind of use that as a guiding light that any move towards no network latency is a big way to make liveware a no-brainer and more, powerful. Late to the party, Malik. How's it going?
Oh, that's true. They're the user, not the listener, Caleb.
Sorry. What did I say?
I couldn't tell you. It was 15 seconds or more ago.
No, I know. I say what did I say a lot. Like sometimes I mean it, but I just want you to know that it's an inside joke in my head.
They want to know more about Alpine Day.
Really?
Do we get off the topic about? So what are we doing?
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, D.
So I wrote up a tentative schedule for you based on all the stuff we talked about.
Oh, great.
For you to review. There are still some holes in it about some things that we talked about that I don't know if we can talk about here.
Here's the first question for the listener. If we charge like $9 for Alpine Day, all the money goes to the speaker.
Why are you saying the number that isn't the number? We said a number.
No, I thought about a new number. I really like 9.
Okay.
Daniel wanted 40.
No.
So we charge $9 for Alpine Day. Like all the money goes to speakers. Is that good? Or is it like if we make it free, does everybody show up and it's super fun? Or if it's free, is it just like not as fun? If it's not free, I don't feel like I don't want to have people speak and put in a bunch of work and me not pay them. Then I would have to. Hands up if you would pay to attend Alpine Day. Thanks, Josh. It's a small sample set, but it's still a sample set. Okay. Decol. Ready to upload this thing. Capitalism, a love story. This is so great because we don't even have to upload the thing to YouTube. It's all done because it's just YouTube. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. We just end the stream and then it is live.
Yep. We're in business, folks. Uploading. And then you got this description. This is great. Dude, folks. I just called the listener dude. But why $9? Make it 10. Maybe consider a scholarship option if you're concerned about cost for others. Yeah, I definitely don't want anybody to not attend because they like don't want to pay or can't pay. I more want to pay the speakers and make it feel kind of
What if we did? All right, Caleb, no one who's listening to this right now is going to leak this information if we say it.
Okay. What
if we just say it costs $9, but then day of just say it's actually free after we've already gotten the money? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like you just like pre-registration is $9. It's like $9 or $0 at the door.
That would be
$9 only for $0 day of. We just don't tell you that it's $0 day of.
Because that way, you can't tell if you're serious about this.
I mean, kind of.
No way, dude. That would be a pretty dick move. Am I right?
I mean, why? They were willing to pay $9
No, it's the same thing. Like, same reason you don't like sell a course and then give a massive discount like 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Because then people are like, what?
Or like cancel student loan debt because it's like, oh, fuck, I had to pay for college. Like,
exactly. Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, and if you cancel student loan debt or if you make weed legal in New York, which it is now, as of like last,
people who you already sent to jail for weed.
Yeah, and you exonerate them.
Good.
Which they have a plan for that. Like that's how you do it. So if you give a wicked discount a month
it is super legal now in New York. You can just do whatever.
Dude, it's crazy. Like
you can
literally
smoke weed anywhere you can smoke a cigarette, right? Except driving a car.
I can't believe this. That literally like the place that I live, that before you could get weed, but it was illegal and you could get busted for it. And it was not cool to have weed on you. Now you can walk down the street with a joint hanging out of your mouth
and talk to a cop on the street.
Blitzed. Just totally like face. And
you could literally ask the cop if he wants to hit it.
I feel like anybody who smokes weed is gonna like have all this residual like cop anxiety when they're high. So like they're never gonna shake that. Yeah. No way.
I wonder how many people who are like, I don't smoke weed, it just makes me paranoid, are gonna feel like way less paranoid be like, now.
Dude, totally.
Yeah.
If you're not constantly worried about cops,
yeah,
what's there to be paranoid about?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all chill, baby.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I literally just can't even believe that I'm going to go back home and I could just like, I don't know. I can't like buy a bag of weed legally yet.
You can, right?
So no, I think that's like there's a whole plan for that to get dispensaries up and running.
Shit, yeah.
Right. So I think the only real way to get weed that's not medical weed is like from your buddy who sells weed.
Or in like New Hampshire or something.
Oh, yeah. Right. It is illegal to cross state lines with it. They still have employee drug tests in states. Good question. That's a great question. They totally. My brother works in Denver. Not that he has reason to have fake pee on his person. But yeah, he gets drug tested. But technology's come a long way. Fake pee. It's not legal for cops. Yeah, you can't. They drug test for like law enforcement and a bunch of stuff. So bummer to be in those industries if you're into the reef.
It's wild.
Set a price, let's say $10K, and if you reach that number, then do the Alpine Day for free to everyone. That's a great idea.
Oh, like sponsor wear
Alpine Day.
Yeah, once it hits X number of dollars, then it's free.
Huh.
Or how about this? We are going to make X number of dollars. So we're going to charge you whatever percentage of the registration that is. Like,
what?
So like, you give us your credit card information. We will get $10,000 total.
So right.
You better hope that a bunch of other people sign up.
Right. Like you're all in this together, but don't reveal that till after we get their credit card information. No, I don't think cops
It's not pay what you want. It's pay what we want. That's evil.
Daniel, this is actually perfect. We should do that.
The cutoff.
There should be a it should basically be like, how much do we want to pay these speakers?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's like, I don't expect a ton of people. We can't have like inflated expectations. So let's say that we expect 250 people.
Mm-hmm.
Times 10 is $2,500. That's if we paid $500 a speaker, which is low.
The speakers, but yeah, but it's
whatever.
A half hour.
Yeah,
$500 half hour is pretty good.
That's pretty good. So what if it was like, what if the goal was? That's good. The speakers are going to make. That's what we have to do. Yep.
Speakers make $500, and then we'll let them know, like anything that. Registrations that don't happen, like we're gonna have to do that out of pocket because we're promising these speakers $500. So you better register.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Sorry, you guys have to watch my weird this mirror. Normally there's no mirror. I can put my leg on a table and nobody gets weird about it. Yeah, dude.
I think it's doable.
We got to do that.
We should do that.
Let's
do that.
Yep, we're gonna do that. That is a Musafar. Thank you, broski.
Dude,
thank you for that idea.
Yeah, with the big come through clutch moment.
So, Daniel,
dude, this live stream is already paying off.
Do we just is 2,500 too low?
What do you mean?
Like, what if it was like we're trying to raise $5,000 for Alpine Day, which means speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel organizing and probably speaking or whatever, doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not doing Zoom, and a MacBook Air. Mm-hmm. That's an M1 MacBook. Mm-hmm. It's like we need to give away an M1 MacBook. We need to pay Daniel and we need to pay the speakers.
The people don't know about the M1 MacBook, by the way, so we just kind of leaked that. But
right. Yeah, pay what we want. That is a good title.
Oh, that is a good title. Oh.
So Daniel. All the listeners, by the way, we are now transitioning to figuring Alpine Day out because we were supposed to be doing that, but I was just so burnt out
my
on
harvest timer.
Yeah.
No, but I think.
Are we done with No Plans to Merge right now? Like, we published everything, right?
Well, I mean, the stream is still going, but
right.
Other than that, yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I think so, right? Let me make sure that you published. Yeah, you did publish it. It's all good.
Daniel speaking on capitalism. That's only $2,000 a piece. You got like 5. You got like 5 at least. That's only $2,000 a piece.
Oh, so we have at least 5 people coming, so that's only like $2,000 a piece to get to 10K.
Hey, my friends, I need to tell you, I'm billing you for this call now. Daniel, so if we do this thing, see, this is the tough thing, especially with setting a threshold, is like, if nobody cares, then whatever, we just pay a bunch of money to people. You can do it like, I don't know how to do it. That's why 500 is good, because it's lower risk for me, basically. Until I know that there's like a decent demand, I can handle paying $500 a piece for speakers, even if I have to eat the whole thing. So let's say $500 times 6 speakers maximum. That's $3,000 plus $1,000 for the MacBook, plus $1,000 for you, minimum. I don't know. Don't ask Daniel.
Don't give me double what the speakers are getting.
Daniel gets.
The agreement was I get an even speaker share of the money.
Right. Okay.
That's what's in the email that I said sweet beans to.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, that's how we do contracts, Caleb and I. Caleb wrote like a very like vague list of requirements and said, "Respond sweet beans to agree to this."
It's true, dude. I love email contracts. I've sent like 3 of them in the last. Okay, see you, Matt. Thanks for hanging. Caleb was tired early. Let him go to sit. You could tell all my different positions. All right, so Daniel, $500 times 6 people is $3,000.
Okay, so by the way,
500.
I think so. We had said like 12 to 5, right?
Yep. 6
half-hour slots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But an hour for your slot, and an hour for each of your slots, right?
Yeah.
Or is it a half hour for the first slot and an hour for the last slot?
Yeah, we could do that.
Because there's not enough space for 6 people.
All right, let's say 5 people.
Yeah, so right now I have...
It can be 11 to 5 or whatever.
1, 2, 3... I have 5 right now, and that includes a half-hour break in the middle of the day. So we could get to 6 if we killed the half-hour break. I think the half-hour break is important.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a half hour.
I also have a half hour dedicated to the giveaway, which I was also thinking if there were sponsors, we would put them in that half hour too.
Right. Okay, so let's say that there's a half hour break, a half hour giveaway / sponsors or something. So that's 1 hour. There's, let's say, 2 hours of me. However it's situated, I think I need 2 hours, to be honest. Maybe that's too much. I don't know. Let's just plan for that.
I could share the spreadsheet if you don't.
So we're at 4 hours.
I don't know if you want to leak the names that are on the spreadsheet right now.
No, it's all good. 4 hours plus speaker.
So right now, here's what I have.
Wait, what did I just do? Speaker.
Here's what I have. I have 12 o'clock is like intro, welcome to the thing. It's a 10-minute intro, right?
Garrett will do 30 minutes of freeform poetry for $500.
Ooh, that's pretty good. That's actually a good rate. So I have 10 minutes intro. Then I have from 12:10 to 1 o'clock, so 50 minutes. I have Caleb doing State of Alpine. Right? Then I have from 1 to 1:30, I have a talk. From 1:30 to 2, I have a talk. Then from 2 to 2:30, I have a break. Because that's like close enough to lunch for all the time zones. And then from 2:30 to 3, I have the big giveaway / sponsor slot right after lunch.
Okay.
And then I have a talk at 3 to 3:30, a talk 3:30 to 4, a talk 4 to 4:30, and then 4:30 to 5:30 is the Alpine keynote.
Okay.
Which is you. Then 5:30 is like closing remarks and a little bit of a break. And then 6 we come back with the live no plans to merge after show.
Love it. It's great, D. Cole. So how many speakers is that?
That's 5, but we could reasonably squeeze it down to 6.
No, we'll just say 5.
Cool.
So that's 5 times 500 is 2,500 plus 500 for Daniel is 3K plus 1,000 is for the MacBook is 4K. And is that it? That's all we need, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. So we need to raise $4,000 for Alpine Day.
Okay, so let's assume that you can get 2 sponsors to basically take, like, I bet you could get sponsors to take away 1,500 of that.
For sure.
Right? So now you just are back to that 2,500.
Is that even worth it though?
Well, if it gets you back to that 2,500 number, which means that you only need 250 people at $10 a piece.
Right, because 250 people at $10 a piece is still like
a lot of people.
Like, is that gonna happen?
Yeah.
All right, so
I honestly don't think that there's anyone who will pay $10 but won't pay $17.
And if we have a way for people to pay that's like minimum 10
mm-hmm.
and then up, like I think we'll probably cover it fairly quickly. Like, because if I was doing that, I would put in 25
minimum
probably.
10. Yeah.
So if it was just like minimum 10, I could do one-time sponsorships for.
Especially if it's like you're showing that like Alpine, it becomes free at this threshold. Yeah, like that incentivizes people to give more to get to the threshold quicker to let people get in for free.
I could just use the new one-time payments on. This is very interesting. Oh my gosh, this is super interesting.
On GitHub sponsors.
GitHub sponsors. So if I do GitHub sponsors, and then
could you do it for Alpine itself?
Yes, that's the thing. So I could set up brand new sponsors account for Alpine, and do one-time payments.
Wait, can you do it per repo or just per org?
Per org.
You can't do it per repo?
No.
Because then we could make we could just make an Alpine Day org.
That's interesting.
Because the only problem with the Alpine thing is like then you're like weirdly fracturing your sponsor money, you know?
Why is that?
Oh, I guess no, because it's not recurring, so it doesn't fucking
just
matter.
A one-off thing. Yeah. So everybody who does it will get like sponsor status for 1 month. That's how it works right now. One-time sponsors.
How hard is the like? I've never done GitHub sponsors before, but I need to do a quick one-time payment through GitHub sponsors. How frictiony is the?
I don't know. I have people, so like I can contact them and fast track whatever I need to fast track. But let's kill this stream.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say goodbye to the user.
Dude, and user, listener, people, it's been incredibly chill.
Yeah. Thanks for being.
This is a blast. We should.
Yeah, we love the live stream.
Yeah, we should do this every week. Also, normally it's on Friday. It's on Wednesday for undisclosed reasons. By the way, I only have 13 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So let's end this quick.